Thank you for the compliment.
Hey, good morning, Misfits. It is Saturday, June 13th. It is episode 478. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. 478. Today's conversation is, what do you spill? I just show up to Sean's calls because I want to see what kind of crazy title he's come up with. What do you spill? So before we get started there, just want to welcome everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. I'll tell you a little bit about a call I was on yesterday. One strong black woman and 4 white folks. It was a pretty powerful call with Tiffany Malott. I'll tell you a little bit about that and how you'll be able to have access to that. But this morning, before we get started, RBP, are you there? I know you're there, but who knows if you're eating biscuits and gravy or something.
No, I'm actually looking at the fish my husband and my daughter just caught. So.
Oh my goodness.
They went fishing about 6 o'clock this morning.
How cool is that? What a
yeah.
That.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
that's so awesome. Well, could you start us off with a little blessing?
I would love to. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for the way you provide for us. Thank you for time together. Thank you for a place of unity to sit and grow and learn and listen and share. Thank you for the breath in our lungs and the sun rising yet again one more day for us. Thank you for the smiles you put on our faces and the joy you put into our hearts. Help us to continue to choose to see the joy that is there constantly around us, surrounding us, and is there for our time to just share with each other and to bring smiles and happiness to one another. Thank you for making us for such a time as this, for this moment in time. Thank you for putting these souls together on this planet. Thank you for the movement you have created in us. Continue to let our hearts chase your wisdom and speak your words so our mouths say it exactly the way you want us to say it and how you need us to say it. Thank you for utilizing us and letting us use you. And thank you for everything you've provided today. Incline our hearts to you. Incline each one of our thoughts to you, so we pick up today what it is you will have us to pick up. And we just thank you for this in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rhonda. We'll let you back to guard duty.
Right. I'll be in the waiting room if y'all need me.
Guard duty. Hey, so good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing well. It's good to see all of these amazing faces. If there's anybody new on the call, I recognize some new photos, but I'm not sure. Maybe you've been here before. But if you're new, go ahead and drop an N in the chat. Let us welcome you and say, hey, thank you. Great to have you here. Go ahead and send out your messages of joy, of gratitude, of acknowledgement, of fun or laughter. That would be awesome. And drop a D in the chat when you're done. I'm about accountability. I want you to know when you know it's done. So that would be cool. So this morning's conversation, I was reading in our devotional this morning, and talks about spilling, letting him spill into us. Well, my question is what's spilling to you, from you, on you? What are you allowing to spill onto you? Most people, when they get stuff spilled on them, right? Most people are like, oh my gosh, right? Popcorn or Coke or coffee. So here's my question to you. What are you spilling onto the world? What spills out of you on a daily basis? How many of you know the phrase, if I'm about to say, sometimes stuff spews out of people? And so right now, what does the news spew into you, spill into you? What does your reading spill into you? What does your Facebook posts spill into the world? See, we're always spilling. We'll either be spilled on, we'll be the ones doing the spilling. It's kind of an odd concept, isn't it? To think we spill into the world. We do, and typically, so sometimes here's the question. This just downloaded to me. If you're underneath a waterfall, do you get hydrated? Yeah, through the skin, the biggest organ in the body, you can get a little hydration, right? It's a little better if you drink it. Maybe not the waterfall water, but you know what I mean. But here's the question. When you're on your social media and you get agitated, when you're, good morning, Heather Love. Oh, there it is. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see the back deck. Look at that. There's a story behind that. We may tell that later. That's her reward. Remember, we talk about rewarding ourselves for reaching success points in our business and in our life. Those are some big rewards for her. Beautiful rewards for her. I'm excited to see them. So when we talk about what spills into us, when you go onto your social media and you read posts and you get agitated and you get grumpy or you laugh. If you read something on your social media and you laugh, it's spilled into you and then you absorbed it. It flowed into you and it changed your DNA. It changed your makeup. And if you read something on your wall and you got angry, it too spilled into you. Here's the question. So I live in Dallas, Texas, actually Plano, Texas. And everybody usually likes to go, oh, Plano, Texas. I live in Plano, Texas. And Aaron Brockovich was here probably a year ago. Now, I don't know if you know Aaron Brockovich, but when you look at the water, she's the one that was all about the water and the testing, right? And she's become known as an advocate for clean water. Well, Aaron Brockovich showed up in our city. And she didn't come here for the tourism. So we have a filter on our water. So whatever they do out there, whatever comes to the tap in here, that's okay. It gets filtered. There's filters. And most people, if you use filters to filter your water, I'm going to remind you, I'm going to encourage you dramatically to make sure you have a filter on your shower. 5 minutes in a shower is the equivalent of breathing 30 days of fumes in your house. Anyway, so yeah, have a filter on your shower as well from a health standpoint. But we have filters. So my point is that whatever spills into our tap, whatever spills into the water system, we've got a filter that takes it out so that when I get it, it's healthier water, right? So I say that to say this. When social media, when the world spills into you, when the world spills into your well called your life, what filter do you have to, what filter is social media going through? See, because if you get affected, you don't have a good filter. Not saying you can't hear it and be a part of it and debate about it and have a conversation about it. What I am saying is that it shouldn't send you off into a tizzy and make you run outside and just want to shoot and holler. My question is to you then, how do you establish your filter? Because that filter works both ways. When your words spill out of you, are they going through a filter? How many times, hey, listen, so how many times have you been having a conversation with a loved one, somebody you know, and no matter what you said, they always seem to take it the wrong way? They just have this filter on them that is absolutely like, I can't talk to you. Everything I say to you is an argument. Do you ever know anybody like that? So even if you read them the Holy Scripture and it was given to you by the big guy himself, they'd be like, yeah, but you know, that's not true. You'd be like, so sometimes people have a filter that doesn't make that no matter what you say, they're going to always, it goes through their filter of the BS filter, or this is just a crap filter. But if you know that, then your filter has to adapt. your conversation needs to adopt. You need to know that if I say light, they're always going to say dark. And if I say happy, they're always going to say sad. And if I say sad, they're going to go sad squared. It's as you sit with a prospect and as you sit with somebody who sits across from you, you are going to spill into their life and they are going to spill into yours. They talk about it in conversation to give you a visual. Some of you are visual. I'm very visual. Here's you, here's them. They call it the pool of conversation. And your words go into the pool. And you're sitting in the pool at this end, and their words go into the pool, and they're sitting at this end. And when you start to throw words in the pool that poison the pool, that contaminate the pool, the conversation is over. You both get sick. So what can you do? What is the neutralizer? See, if you understand this, not saying you don't understand it, but if you understand you're the one with the chlorine for the pool shock, you're the one with the whatever all of the chemicals are you put in a pool, right? You're the one that's there, that's necessary to make sure the pool stays healthy. So what words do you use that neutralize? When stuff spills into you, what is the neutralizer? Right? We see in the movies, we see in all of the science fiction movies, there's a neutralizer, a neuralizer. And that they go, psst, and they go, I'm better again. What chemical was that? I don't know. And they go, beep, 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 psst, and they go, I'm better. And everybody's better. It takes courage to be the neutralizer. So I sat on a call yesterday with Tiffany Malott, and it was about the racial tension that's happening. And so they told Tiffany, for those of you that don't know her, she's a very strong woman, 20 plus years in our profession. She was married to a white man. And so she knows, she says, what did she say? I wasn't racial, but I wasn't racist, but I was racial. So, and that went through a divorce. And so she had these three other amazing folks on, an activist who's really, an activist, she's got a protest sign factory in her garage. She's all for, and it's for the green planet. She was all about the planet. There was a scholar that came on. She was an educator at university level and high school level. So she was wildly smart, psychologist, studied in psychology, and a cop for 29 years who oversaw a precinct of about 400 in Phoenix, and a farm boy from Ohio. And so Tiffany had done a previous town hall where she had 3 whites and 3 African-American folks, or 4 African-American folks. And so everybody said, you're nuts for doing this. You're absolutely nuts for doing this. It's not going to be good. It's not going to turn out well. So she did it. It seemed to go extraordinarily well. And then she reached out to a bunch of people, a bunch of her white friends, and she reached out to them, and she went to go, and she said, listen, I'd love to have you on the call. And she said, these are people who they didn't respond. And so when she sent me the thing, I immediately responded, said, yes, I would love to have a conversation with you. And she said, out of all of the people I asked, she said, because Tiffany's funny when you get to know her, she goes, you're not the only white people I asked. I got more than 4 white friends. She said, but you're the only ones that had the courage to show up. And I'm like, how does it take courage to show up to have a dialogue? And I got to tell you, everybody else, the other 3, all said they were nervous about showing up. I'm like, well, first of all, you either A, you don't know Tiffany, or you're worried about you're worried about saying the wrong thing. You can't say the wrong thing if you're speaking from your heart. And now it may be stupid, and I promise you, I probably said some stupid stuff, but it was said from my heart, because that's how we learn. When you step into the frontier, it gets messy. And that's where we all were yesterday. So the call's coming out next week. The interesting thing here is that here's what happens in network marketing as well. The dialogue that happened yesterday was listen to me, follow me on this, because it's unloading, downloading to me now. So the way everybody wanted to make everybody feel comfortable was through education. Not education like 4 + 4 is 8. Education of perception. And the thing that kept coming up over and over was a time frame with which we were not cordial to a particular race. Well, for 400 years, there's not been a voice for African Americans, for Black people. And this kept spilling into the conversation. And I'm sitting there giggling. I'm going, how is that even a valid statement? When I go back and I look at the Stoics, and I look at, because I Googled, I'm looking for the Stoics, and I said, I haven't seen one Black Stoic. I said, how is that possible? Because boy, I got to tell you, I've met some African Americans, some Black folks who are dear friends of mine who have got some wisdom beyond the ages. Listen, grandma's wisdom didn't just come from grandma. So I talked with Tiffany afterwards. I said, Tiffany, it's been a few thousand years since the beginning of time there's not been a voice. And she goes, I wish you'd have said that on the call. I said, yeah, but those folks were much smarter than me. I said, they all had degrees. I said, I had a 0.9 grade point average. I go, I wasn't going to get in an argument with them. Just like the one lady said, well, nah, she's shaking her head while I'm saying a comment. And I'm like, because she wanted to educate me. What does this have to do with what spills in our building a business? Everything. How many people, listen to me and answer this to me, how many people sit down across the table from you looking for ways to be right? Type an R in the chat if you think there's people who wind up sitting across the table from you looking for ways to be right. And does not our conversation sometimes give them a chance to be right? So as we sit down with prospects, as we sit down with people today, if what spills out of us challenges their thought process into a polarizing position, because I would have to say, I think we might all agree there's a slight chance that I might say something that's true here, is that we are polarizing our world. And here's the thing, my mentor would always say this, you've all heard this. You're right, I'm rich, let's move on. Aggravate the bejeebies out of me. And sometimes when I say it to y'all, when we're having conversations, when I know that if I beat my head against the wall one more time, somebody's going to get hurt, and it'd probably be me. So that's when you'll hear me go, you know what? You're right. I'm rich. Let's move on. Any other questions I can help you with? Because as we sit and have a conversation with a prospect, with a loved one, with a family member, with Mason, when I sit down to have a conversation with Mason, I love his worldliness without really ever having been around the world. He gets to go investigate things. When I tell him I've got people on the call from Serbia, he goes and checks out Serbia. He'll Google it. He's got this little curiosity to him. Or Sweden, or Belgium. Now, he loves history, and he loves World War II and World War I. He loves talking about that kind of history. He loves about the Ottoman Empire and showing a map of how cultures moved through the world. Yet when we have a dialogue because of my age and his age, there's things like, that's just so stupid, in a fun-loving way, but it's perception. So as we sit and have a conversation with somebody, are we polarizing them to continue to hold on to their rightness, which is what they asked us to adjust? If anybody comes to sit down with us to have a conversation about personal undevelopment, about creating some income, about how to do a business online, how to grow their business, they're already in your team and they want to know, how do I build a team? How do I go enroll somebody? If somebody comes to you on your team and says, how do I enroll somebody? What is the right that they already believe? They can't enroll somebody. And then we have a dialogue that says, just talk to more people, go for more no's. We kind of cement in maybe, quite possibly, they're not good at enrolling people, and they now got to go through more pain to get to a yes. So I'd ask you today, I'd ask you to review yesterday, I'd ask you to review this morning. Just this morning, in the last few hours you've been awake, and some of you overseas, you've been awake for quite a while. What has spilled out of you that has served you? What has spilled out of you that has brought joy to the world? Because that was the other thing that we talked about. Tiffany asked in one of the closing questions, based upon where we're at right now, based upon what we've understood, because we learned some things from the police officer, 29 years in service. We learned some things from him that we could do that some of us didn't know we could do. They asked, what's some of the things you could do? I said, well, I'm on a call every day for an hour or 2 hours, and I'm asking these amazing souls to take over a platform to go share a story. Because we all have platforms. And these individuals who are young, energetic, have tremendous passion, have tremendous desire, have incredible intellect, yet sometimes are afraid to say boo. I encourage them to go have a conversation together, right? In every book you've ever read, whether it's Think and Grow Rich or the Bible, or in every book in between, whenever two or more of you are gathered, I am there. That's what it says in the good book. In Napoleon Hill's book, it says, when two or more of you are gathered, it becomes a mastermind. A third is created. And from that mind, new ideas can come from. So it matters not if it's two. Moshe's doing something with guys, meaning having a conversation with men and talking about their strength and their understanding and their spiritual side, and getting in touch with this ability to be more giving, to become more aware, to be less fixing and more friending. So I ask some questions. What is it? What spills out of you on a daily basis? This is where meditation comes in. This is where rituals come in, right? You look at world class, and I'm talking about world class like Olympic world class. 4 years, start the practice for 4 years, sometimes 8 years to get on the stand. 8 years of their day doing just one thing particularly, right? And they're under complete scrutiny from every bit of nutrition and muscle and fibers and poking and prodding to maximize the body, to maximize the performance. So if we were to do an investigation in you, if we were to dive deeper into you, if we were to look at your secret sauce, what's been what's been brewing down there? What is the thing that spills out of you? What would you want to add to your secret sauce? What would you want to add to your to that thing that makes you special? What would you what ingredient, what special ingredient have you yet to drop into the cauldron of creation for you? Because you're afraid you might run out of it. Ladies, follow me on this. Tell me if this is a fair statement. Sometimes when we get hurt, we're afraid to drop the love back into the cauldron because we're like, I just don't want to get hurt again. Could be guys as well. We're a little bit more goofy. But this idea that if we drop forgiveness into the pot, if forgiveness becomes part of our secret sauce, yeah, but that just makes everything taste nasty. For who? If we drop joy into the pot, yeah, but nobody's going to want to eat it. You're feeding it to the wrong people. What if the love you dropped in there shot up in a waterfall out the top of your head and just fell on you? Would that be a bad thing if you started to love you more? See, when we learn that the only thing we can do to others is the same thing we do to ourselves, because they said it a long time ago. You drinking the poison hoping somebody else dies probably ain't gonna work. So as you start to look at what spills out of you, you have to also look what spills into you. It's okay sometimes to go talk to the hand. The challenge is that there always seems to be a way for it to slip in on the side, to come in through a side window. It's not even playing fair. It's not even coming in through the doors, the front door, the back door. It's coming in through windows. It's coming in through the attic fan. It's just finding its way in. It's coming in through the furnace. The idea of what spills out of you is pretty important to really take a peek at, because what spills out of you is what's, of course, inside of you. And I promise you, have you ever met somebody that was dressed gorgeously? They looked sharp. They looked handsome. But then when you got closer, their perfume made you go, oh my gosh, well, what are you wearing? But you'd never say anything. I had an experience like that about a year and a half ago. Maybe it's 2 years ago now. Icon in the industry. Most people don't go up and talk to him. But I know him. He knows of me. And we shook hands and we hugged and this, that, and the other. And I'm walking away going, what is on me? And it was some cologne. And it was rather strong that I had to take my jacket off. Which, here's a little insider tip. If you're a speaker or you're a trainer, you want to have an extra jacket just because you may wind up hugging somebody like that. And if you got to go back on stage to speak and you don't want to have to smell that. Anyways, those are just little tips and tricks. Let's see here. I see somebody's got their hand up. Good morning, Sharon.
Morning.
It's time to give A break from cleaning. So
I get to come outside, have my morning drinks.
there you go.
You started talking about this, may not be relevant to what you're really talking about, but you were talking about love and women who, are afraid to love again because they don't want to get hurt. And my first thought was, I just don't want to hurt somebody else again. And when you said it's because of what you do to yourself, I can't believe I'm crying. But I realized, I was at a Marshall Silver thing one day, and he asked me if I was in a relationship, and I said no. He said, "Are you open to one?" And I hesitated. He said, "Then you're not, right?" Open to one. And there was this little part of me that morning that had thought, well, maybe I'll meet somebody at this workshop. So it was a funny conversation. And I met this wonderful, wonderful man there who we became really good friends for a minute. But it turned out that he was engaged, and it was a good becoming friends without crossing lines that we shouldn't cross, that neither one of us wanted to be out of integrity that way. And because of that, we ended up being really, really good friends. Like, I feel really, really, really close to you, and I have no fear of anybody crossing any lines. But it never occurred to me I'd be this age and not have a man in my life, a man in my bed, and it's a hard thing to talk about because I have so much love in my life right now, and I'm so happy. I'm happier than I've ever been in my whole life. And I always say, when I was married, I've never been as lonely as I was when I was married, never. And it was like, I didn't have that closeness in a real day-to-day thing. So I feel like this is a subject that I have so, I've accomplished all kinds of a bazillion things, and I've got to write my list so that I have it in writing, but I've been married 3 times, and my last husband felt like it was my real husband, and I loved this man, who he was. I mean, I loved his heart. I loved that I felt like I was wrapped in the arms of God when he would hold me, but he was also slightly autistic, so it was like making love to a 3-year-old. I couldn't do it. And I always felt like if I were really loving, I could stand in that space and love somebody enough, but I never could, and so I practiced with my family. I practiced loving, and I practiced standing in the space to not get into right, wrong, and all of that stuff. But with men, I can be, my first husband was Black, and I have all kinds of, like when you talk about getting in those conversations, there's this whole well of stuff that's in there that never got resolved with that. My second husband was a jerk, and I finally stood up inside and said, if you do this, then I can't do that, kind of thing. And when he realized the game was up, he was, it was it. And but my third husband was just harsh, but he was not, and it was like, okay, in retrospect, I didn't have enough self-esteem to choose the right man. Now I do. But now I'm 74 years old, and everybody's, it's like, how did I get here? Where am I going? What do I do with this part of me that I stuff away? And I think that it hurts me in business when I lock off any part of myself, and I've locked off this part of myself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it's a hard subject for me because everybody says, well, you want a relationship, just go get one. Well, my niece is getting married tomorrow. She's 56. And and she's getting married by Zoom because nobody wants to travel. She doesn't want us to travel. And I used to feel really close to her. She was like a daughter to me. And I mean, I have loved this woman since the day she was born and saw her. And it never occurred to me that she and I wouldn't be close at this point. But she's happily grown herself up and is close to her mom as what she should be instead of me. And I'm missing having a family, you know, and I'm missing that, you know, she had a bachelorette party and didn't invite me, you know. So I think because of the wedding tomorrow and because of all the stuff that's going on in the world, I'm thinking about love again, and I don't know what to do with my thoughts.
So if you had a bucket of love, where would you put it?
I mean, I do have a bucket of love. I put it out in the world. I love how
No. I know physically. Where would you set it right now with your capability and capacity? Where would you set the bucket of love?
Okay, my intellectual answer is my heart. My first inner response was my private parts.
Okay. So let's talk about let's go say you're going to go fill up a cup of, you're going to go grab the biggest cup or bucket you have in the house, and you're going to metaphorically fill it with love. Where would you put it? Where would you set it down? Where would you want to set it down?
Next to me.
Okay. And so now the love is sitting next to you. What does it do for the world?
It's just sitting in a bucket. It's not doing nothing.
Well, no, it's there. It's there for anybody to do what? When stuff is in a bucket, what can people do with it? Can't they take stuff out of the bucket?
What?
Can't they take? Well, Dr. Freud to the lobby. Brittany, get over. Can't people reach in and like it's a gift bag and take stuff out of the bucket? Can't they dip into it?
Yeah.
So where would you put it for people to dip into that bucket? Where do you think people need Sharon's love? Where they need an unending source of Sharon's love? Where would you put that bucket for them to use for people who don't have it?
Well, what happens for people who don't have it is they give it out.
That's not what I asked. Play my game, my rules. I love you.
I have no idea.
That's the challenge. That's the challenge. You don't know where to send your love. Where would you put this bucket of love?
It's like I would just I would put it where I would put it, you know, I would put it so that it was accessible for somebody.
Great. Where? Give me a location. You've got all this love that's inside of you. Where do you want to go send it? Where do you want to drop it off at? You want to put it down by the clubhouse of your community?
Not particularly. I do that. I do it as an exercise, but I don't. It's
okay.
Not.
So where do you want to go put this love? Where do you want to go drop a bucket? Because you can't ride by and throw it on people. That's against the law.
That's what I was wanting to do. In a room, I would like to put it like I would like to put it in a room full of people like this.
Where? So where? So where would you want to put this bucket now? This physical bucket. Well, this is the challenge. So you see what happens, and I love that Sharon is playing with me on this and playing along with me on this, because this is a brilliant woman that I sit with. Somebody much smarter than me. I've gotten good in my field, in my niche. And now we're having a dialogue, wildly intellectual folks. And I'm asking a very basic, simple question. Listen, if you had a bucket of food, you would know where to go and to deliver food. If you had a pallet full of food, where would you go deliver it? You'd take it to your church, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then you'd turn it over to them because they know what to do with it. Here's the challenge. All of you, if you all had to take a bucket of love and drop it off somewhere, where would you go put it? The challenge is that we think we still own our love once it leaves our lips. We don't. And that's where we get hurt, because we want them to use it. We want to be responsible for how they use our love, how they use our wisdom, how they use our language. We want to be responsible for how, when we spill into them, that they use it the way. Listen, I'm going to give you all I got, but here's the rules on how you use it.
They receive it.
And so that's when you mention that I don't want to hurt anybody, it's pretty much you don't want to get hurt if they don't take it, they don't use it. So that's what I'm saying. Where could you anonymously go drop off a bucket that's filled with just amor and love and joy and laughters and your giggle and your smiles, and everybody looks in the bucket, ooh, a Sharon smile, let me get one of those.
Brittany says, it's right there inside you. I love Brittany.
Well, she's also the one that said, what can people do when you got a bucket of love? She said, kick it over. I'm like, well, okay. Yeah. Dr. Freud to the lobby. Dr. Freud to the lobby. So here's the question. I would go set it at the corner of my street. I'd set it right out in front of my house. So that when somebody steals the bucket, because they probably will, and all they wanted was the bucket, okay, I need to go get another bucket. If you're going to put it out there, you can't, once it's out there, you have no control over it anymore.
Right.
It's kind of like if you're fishing and the fish takes your worm, it's like, I got to bait the hook again.
But here's the thing that I see happen a lot. Hi, somebody who across the way needs some love. I'm outside.
Can they hear you?
I guess so.
Say good morning.
Good morning. Am I too loud, Linda? You want me to go inside? Do you want me to go inside? I'm sorry. I woke her up. All this laughter.
Hand her your love bucket. Hand her the love bucket now. Go, quick.
Never apologize.
Go throw the bucket.
Be in joy.
Where I live, because a lot of people are older, they sleep late. They go to bed late. They don't get enough sleep, and then they don't. So 7 o'clock in the morning is really early around here.
Yeah, well, sucks to be them.
What?
Nothing.
So yeah, there's an example. It's like, this is not being received well.
Right. So here's what it comes down to, right? How we limit ourselves. And it's, you can still go inside and be in joy. You can be outside and be in joy. You can be outside and go, hey, Linda, 2 words for you. Neither one of them's happy or birthday. Go back to bed. Right? So all of those things to say, what happens with what we spill out? There's the perfect thing. What's spilled out, what's spilled in. And this
Right.
this is happening to all of us with every second of the day.
Right. And I see people in relationships that where it's like, I hear you talk about your bride. I've never even met Michelle, but I totally love Michelle. She puts up with us. She knows how much we love you, and she's like, that's cool.
She's not quite sure how you guys love me, because she knows me.
And I watch Rhonda with her husband, who never says 2 words, which would drive me crazy if a guy never spoke to me.
Oh, no, he was a chatterbox the other day at the pool, so.
Oh, really? 7 words instead of 3. Anyway,
listen, if you're going to double your speech, why not? Good morning, Rick. Oh my God, there she is with the phone
Say
again.
again.
Oh my God.
Good morning.
But you can see the love on his face. You can see the softness. You can see the love, you know.
Yep.
And then I see so many people who are lonely in their relationships. I guess I'm terrified of not being able to connect. It's like we connect here.
Okay,
You
so wait a
connect.
sec. So wait a second. So let's look at it. Let's go scientifically. Have you
Okay.
been able to connect with other human beings at a level that's new to you in the last 3 months?
Yes.
So
Well, it's not so much that it's new to me. It's more sustained than I've ever seen it, that I've
Okay.
ever had it.
So, but in the sustaining, doesn't that make it new?
Yeah.
So, have you been able to sustain unique and wildly, amazingly loving relationships at 74 that you've never been able to do when you were 73?
Yes.
So does that not check the box saying you are qualified, you have the capability and the capacity and the comprehension and all of the other C words, whatever they are, because whatever they are, so that you could have a relationship at an intellectual, at a spiritual, at an emotional level like you've never had before?
Can we throw in a little sex?
Well, you could throw that in. You could throw it in somewhere. Anybody feel like they're talking to their mom about sex right now?
I love you, Sharon. I love you so much. You're amazing.
I'm sorry.
I love you.
Hey,
Hey.
we're gonna be real here.
Listen, well, we just got on that bus. So here's
I'm
the
underage.
Jessica's covering her ears. Hey, forget how old I am. I just look like I look, you know.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I'm underage. I'm just letting you know. So,
Yeah.
wiggle my ears a little.
I will definitely mark this on YouTube, not for children.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm teasing. This is cool. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. If right, the law of attraction, if we put that out there, that's what happens. Now the challenge is that the old joke with the guy who's the priest, who's the minister, who's in the floods, right? And the guy comes by with
Right.
and the police, right, and says, you need to get in
Yeah.
the truck, we need to go. Nope,
Right.
God's going to take care of me. The next guy, you got to get in the boat, we got to go, the floods are, that's 4 feet of water. Nope, God's going to save me. The helicopter comes, he's on top of the roof, oh my gosh, get in the helicopter. Nope, God's going to save me. He dies, goes to heaven, and he asks Jesus, he goes, I told everybody you were going to come save me. He said, I sent you a truck, a boat, and a helicopter. What the hell else do you want me to do? So when it shows up, you got to get in the boat, the car, the truck. And it's going to show up.
Well, when we all started playing here, I got 3 offers in a week of people who just want to have sex. I don't want to just have sex.
Well, right. But the point is that at least we now see which door was the biggest door to open.
And there's a guy on my, and it's like you go to a convention, but here's the thing. When I was on Wall Street, when I was younger, it was during those years when, do what feels good, and I wasn't married and I slept around. I mean, that's what everybody did in those days. And when I got to Wall Street, it was crazy because I'm the only woman there. And I'd go out, I traveled a lot. I hit 67 cities in less than 3 months once and nearly died. But I finally got to this perfect line with guys, and I would say, gosh, if I went to bed with every attractive man I met, my life would be such chaos. I'd love to, but ain't gonna do it. And they would love it. They'd feel attractive. They'd be happy. They'd get everything they would have gotten if they'd gotten me into bed. And I realized, oh, they didn't really want me, they wanted that feeling. They didn't, but I would go home empty and alone and lonely. Or except that I wasn't aware of the loneliness. I was just go home empty. And I really did learn that it did create chaos. And so I got really more discerning, and it just never occurred to me that I get so discerning that there's nobody in my life, you know, because I'm saying no to all the married men, no to all the, you know, people who just wanted a mommy, and no, you know, I don't see any Sean Murphys in my life. Does that make any sense what I'm saying?
I think it makes sense to me, but I'm going to let some of the female voices on here speak, because it's a whole different mindset than me.
Was that my cue?
Well, that's somebody's cue.
I want
Somebody who
somebody
has
who
a higher
will,
pitched voice than
you know,
me.
somebody asked me, is it love that I want or intimacy? I want somebody who can look me in the eye with eyes of love. I have a picture of my niece and her fiance that's getting married tomorrow, where they're looking at each other with such loving that it's like, that's what I want. I want the mutual friendship, care, you know, I want that, you know, that, and the scary part is, if you look at me with eyes of love and then you turn out to be a jerk, I don't know how to say, you know, all I remember is the eyes of love. I just hold on to it, you know.
So Sharon, I got a question for you.
Yes.
When you look in the mirror, how do you look at yourself?
Oh, you're going to go there?
I am gonna go there.
I know. I love it.
Well, I frequently, not every day, but I frequently will do an exercise and stand in front of that mirror and say, I love you, and smile and look at myself with the eyes of love that I want somebody else to.
There you go. And Brittany said something a minute ago in the comments. I don't get to watch the comments a lot on these calls, but Brittany said something about that I really stuck out to me, that she said, once you give love, it's not yours anymore. And there's some truth to that statement. That's a very interesting perspective. And if you give love to get love, there's an intention there. And it's that intention that hijacks moments. It hijacks everything around that relationship or that moment. And I know exactly part of your heart, in a sense, because I remember before I was ever given Amelia, my little girl, I was the aunt that had no children. And I remember going right over here down this county road. I would walk about 3 miles every day. And I was walking down the road and I was just talking to God. And I was like, God, who's going to take care of me when I grow old? Who's going to be there to help me? Who's going to be, you know, these nieces and nephews, they have my sisters as moms, and we're all 2 years apart. They're all going to have to take care of their own mom. Who's going to be there for me? What's going to happen? And I had this sense of panic and this sense of, I just want someone to love me and take care of me the way I'm taking care of others. And it's that moment that when Brittany said what she said just a minute ago about once you give love, it's out of your hands, or it should be, unless you have love tied with a string to where you can give it, then you can yank it back real quick and go, gotcha, and you're mine. Now you have to love me. And if that's fishing, you know, hopefully fishing.
Yeah.
So I know what you mean, and I understand the desire that you have. And I understand that place in your heart where you feel so empty at times, and you're willing to love anybody. However, most of the time, you're guarded at times. And I get that. I understand this. And the part that I don't understand is after 36, having a kid and that changing to, yes, I have a kid. But just because I have a kid doesn't mean she's going to take care of me when I get old. I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm going to pray and hope that she sticks with her raising and that she does. But I think what I'm trying to say is, when you get down to it, if you have moments where you can look in the mirror and you look in the mirror with the love in your eyes that you want to see back, but you're not doing it every single day. You haven't gotten to the point where we can watch Sean Murphy sit on these calls and you can tell he loves himself. Yeah, you can tell he absolutely loves himself. And he even loves his imperfections. See, there's conversations I have with Sean that y'all don't have. And there's conversations where Sean and I are so much like brother and sister that I have people call me going, "Are you and Rick still married? You're always talking about Sean." I'm like, dear God, y'all, stick a sock in it. But Sean and I have these conversations, and he lets me see some very intimate thoughts inside his heart and his head. And even through some of his deepest childhood imperfections and moments, he still loves himself.
Yeah.
And he's learned to accept him and let himself forgive himself for those moments and forgive the people that helped create those moments. And he can sit in love. It's not until that moment that, okay, it's not until that moment that you can honestly love someone. I grow more and more in love with that man the more I sit on these calls and y'all so into me, and I learn to love myself.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what the Bible says. Love your Lord God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul, and love your neighbor as you love yourself.
And that's the part in the Bible that actually got me to say yes to Jesus. It was like, that's the love that I want to love God that much. And when I have that love, when I feel that, then it doesn't matter whether it's in a human form or not, frankly,
Well, and seeing your
every
heart
day,
right now,
that's my prayer.
yeah, seeing your heart right now, I need you to know that you already do. Because if you weren't so captivated by that thought and so, I want to say passionate, passion will get you killed, but I'm going to use that word right now in the most positive way possible. If you weren't so passionate about that, you wouldn't love God. But you get so stirred and so moved that I need you to know from my mouth to your ears that you have such a love for God, and it's already there. And it's not, I want to. It is. It has arrived. It is now. You're sitting in it. And it's the old story in the enemy that goes, yeah, but you got to just do something else. Yeah, but you got to get rid of one more thing. Yeah, but you got to. Yeah, but you got to. That's a good East Texas way to say it. Yeah, but you got to. You don't have to. You're already there. And what Sean is really good at opening our eyes at is where we sit right this moment and what sits with us and whom sits with us. And God sits with you every day. Sharon gets on a call with me and Sean, and she reads us these journals. She gets these downloads she gets from sitting with God. And Sean and I are both like, oh my gosh. Wow. And frankly, I'm kind of going, what the heck, man? You give Sean and Sharon all these great downloads, and I'm the one that brought them to you. What? It's like a network marketing fiasco around here. It's crazy. So you need to realize in your speech, you say, I just want to love God like that. You already do. And he already loves you back so much. He chose you when you never chose him. You got to understand how
That's
valuable
amazing. It's amazing.
it is. It is. And that's how valuable you are. And that's why we sit with someone like a Sean Murphy who has sat in that knowing, and he gets yanked out of it every now and then, but he gets back into it super fast. He sits in that knowing that God loves me. So I love me. If I'm worthy of his love, then I'm worthy of my own love. And it's that moment where, will you let the enemy hijack those thoughts? Will you let the old story hijack those thoughts? So then it becomes exactly what Sean started this conversation with what has poured into you and onto you. Because what has poured into you and onto you will pour out of you. And that's why the scripture in Proverbs says, out of the mouth, the heart speaks. And when your mouth is saying something kind of gross, like you've been brushing your teeth with Satan's toothbrush, you need to check what's in your heart. When you check what's in your heart, you'll understand why you're saying and feeling the ways you're saying. So your heart identifies to me clearly how much you love God and how much he loves you. It's the brain that gets hijacked. Satan's playground is your mind. The enemy's playground is your thoughts. That's why Sean works so hard with our old stories.
And Rhonda, I have to say, it's like one of the things that I love about hanging out with the two of you is like, you give me something and I run with it usually, and like day before yesterday, Sean was telling me something about, why are you even letting that in? Like, who cares? Now I have to get rid of it on myself kind of thing. And so yesterday when that started to happen, before it even got into my brain, I stopped it. I was so proud of myself. I had the best day yesterday because I did that, because it was just all this stuff. And it's like, I realized that half my monkey chatter is not my monkey chatter, it's somebody else's. And,
That's right.
so I could let that go. But then next to that, and maybe this is another piece of it, is it's like, well, if you can't even love your sisters in a way that they get it, who are you kidding that you love God? You should love. And one of my sisters says, well, when Lydia dies, I'll be the oldest, so you have to respect me. You have to honor me, and it's like, because we all revere Lydia, who's 87, and would lay down our lives for her. She's just amazing. She's our good mommy in the family. And so the next one under her goes, well, how come, and she'll like just suck the life out of you if you let
Now,
her.
are we talking about your family or are we talking about a network marketing business? Because they sound exactly the same.
Why do you think I'm in network marketing? If I could learn to love, if I could really learn to express this love and then maybe I'd know how to do a network marketing family. You're right, Sean. I get it.
I mean, 'cause if we never said the word sister and you just use the names Lydia and this, it sounds like, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but for me, in the beginning, right? In the beginning, back when we used to do business on stone tablets and ride dinosaurs to meetings, we would, the names that we talk about is that we would have to love people based on their rank. And we would have to love people based on their title. That's why yesterday, when I was on my call and when Tiffany introduced me, because Tiffany couldn't even hear it. She says, I love you. She says, but tell me what you want people to know about you. I said, tell them I'm a dream pharmacist. She goes, what does that mean? I go, she said, well, tell me something about your past. I said, well, I went to high school. She goes, what university did you graduate from? I said, none. She looked up and she went, I said, okay. I said, and I had a 0.9 grade point average. So she's writing it down. 1.9. I said, no. Thanks for the confidence. 0.9. And so all of a sudden I'm starting to get fractionalized, right? No university, X in that box, not even a check mark. Well, you at least probably did well in high school, 0.9, X in that box. Why am I even talking to you? I could see it running through her head.
Did that get all over you, watching that go through her head?
I giggle. I love it. Because now I have an access. When that spews out of them, it's like, I'm like, oh, I have a new way in. I have a new story. Right? So
Right.
It's like, wait a minute, but I consider you somebody of tremendous value. That's what Jim Rohn says. Right? You want to make more money, become more valuable. And then you can become valuable to people, but when you want to become rich, you become more valuable to valuable people. And that's what we do in network marketing. That's why the phrase "go where you're deserved, not where you're needed" makes sense. Too many people go where they're needed. And in the needy, when you sit with the needy, you get lots of thanks. You can go stand at a food bank and pack food or give away food. You are needed there. We should all go volunteer. You are needed there. but I'm not needed someplace where somebody takes my love, chews it up, spits it out like an old piece of gum, and sticks it under the table. I'm just not gonna go there.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's scary.
But it was the best love I had. Yeah, but that's not my flavor. So this is where a little bit of discernment. Look at me using words that have more than 2 syllables in it. This is where a little bit of discernment. Yep, discernment comes in. And listen, as you're going by, people will get bits and pieces of your love. Listen, there's 39 people on the call. We've had 200 people on the call. Nano gets 1,000 people on his call. Do I sit here and go, but I'm better than him? No, I'd rather not have to deal with all of that. Now, if 1,000 show up here, outstanding. But I'm still only going to be speaking to the one. To the
And
list.
I'm sitting here going, I'm having this conversation. Oh my gosh, am I wasting their time? These kids are so young. They all love shut up.
Listen, not my monkey, not my zoo.
Okay.
But what I would love to hear, so let's get some feedback from some of the younger folks. What are you picking up from this? What are you learning from this? So Bakumi says the convo is really baffling to me. Share with it. What is it? You've got somebody who's got some amazing wisdom on here, and then you've got me. So ask your questions. What is showing up? What is it that you're hearing? Go ahead, Bakumi. You got your hand up. Good morning, Sean.
Good
Good morning, Sean.
Oh, how are you, first of all? How are you, Sharon? How are you, Rhonda? How are you, everyone in the call? I don't know. I just I thought I knew what love was. I thought I knew what, the whole concept of love. And now, I'm just what, I can't love without an agenda? Is that bad?
I love on Tuesdays and Thursdays to 3 and 4:30.
And now I'm looking at myself because I'm just writing in my journal. I was like, am I bad? Why? Now that I'm looking at it, I'm I've definitely, not even a little bit, I've definitely been loving with an agenda. But it's I learned how to do that in secondary school because I used to not love with an agenda. And I knew that people took advantage of that. No, I didn't know. Someone pointed it out to me. So I became the opposite and didn't love anyone. It's really weird. But now I definitely know that I love with an agenda. So now I'm hearing this conversation, it's and then Brittany said, once you give love, it's not yours. And it's what? Of course it's mine. I'm just
It's like chicken soup. It's like chicken soup. Once I give you some, it's still mine. Listen, when you pee that out, I'm coming back for it. That's about how much sense that.
I'm just so confused. I don't because now I'm just thinking what is okay, then how, oh my God. Okay, then how can you just how can you just love and be yeah, that's cool. And then allow that love.
Can I talk?
Yes, go ahead, Heather.
Okay, so
Heather's listen, for Heather to do what she just did, y'all, I need y'all to hear this. She was about to explode.
I have moved 20 times. I swear to God. I was out on the porch. People were mowing their grass. I've gotten kicked off this call, I swear, 7 times. I'm trying to follow the comments, and then every time I get cut off, there's nothing there for me to respond to. So I'm back in the house right now. The girls and everything else still might interfere, but I'm plugged into the Wi-Fi, so I better not get cut off. But to what Bakumi just said, it took me a long time to realize that when you decide to love someone, you have to understand it is not their job to provide you your happiness, nor is it yours to provide them with. And I'm going to reverse all the way back to the beginning, because my life was so screwed up, and every relationship that was in front of me, from my grandparents to my parents to my aunts and uncles, every single marriage, because they were all married, they were all pretty much marriages under the wrong pretenses, and they were all miserable. So ever since I was young, marriage was something I always thought I never, ever, ever wanted. Ever. Like, I always wanted babies. I always wanted to be a mom, but I always told my mom and everybody I wasn't going to get married. Like, I don't need to be married. I don't want a marriage. And then, y'all know life happened. I left at 14. Stuff started happening, and of course I was looking for love, but in the wrong things. And I found a boyfriend who was controlling, he was abusive, he was everything crazy rolled up into one relationship, and it absolutely ruined my heart. It ruined the love that I was trying to give. It ruined what I thought it was supposed to be to love somebody, because I was putting everything of me into another person, and I wasn't giving anything to myself. My sun set and rose and set on making this other person happy, and it was never about my own happiness. So when he did something horrible to me, I looked for excuses. I looked for faults in myself that caused these things, right?
I just get my track shoes on. I'm out of here.
Well, I left, Sharon. It wasn't easy. Like, life was so messed up at home. Like, I was willing to deal with the craziness that I was dealing with, because I did not, for the life of me, my ego wouldn't let me. I did not want to go back home to either my mom's house or my father's house. Absolutely not. That was absolutely out of the question. And I left at 14 and was pregnant at 18. So I left after he started becoming abusive. I did get enough gall to get up and go get a protection from abuse order, but they never lasted. I lived in a women's shelter with my little baby. He was like 2 months old. And because I didn't want to be in that surrounding with a baby, like, I went back to him, even knowing that it was wrong. It wasn't the right thing to do, but I didn't want to continue to make my things worse. Right. So I kept going back to this circle, this unhealthy relationship, this thing that was wrong, thinking that, somehow the love that I had for this person was going to make it right. And it never did. And it ended up being 3 protection from abuse orders. I ended up squatting in a house that we had gotten kicked out. Well, they had gotten kicked out of. I lived with my boyfriend and his mother for years, and they had gotten kicked out of a house that we were renting. My name was on the lease. They got kicked out, and I had nowhere to go. There was no electric. There was no running water. I had a little baby. He was a toddler at this time. I want to say he was almost 2, maybe like 18 months. And I was going to that house that had a mattress on the floor. I couldn't use the toilet. I couldn't take a shower, but I was sleeping on the floor because I had nowhere else to go. And I didn't know any better. I was young. I was thinking, I was taught all the wrong things, guys. Like, marriage is not the answer if you don't understand that this other person doesn't owe you your happiness, right? Like, y'all have to come together. And then marriage was still off the table for so many years. I was a single mom for 12 years because after I finally got enough strength to really leave him and know that I was not going back no matter what, he threatened to kill me and sent somebody to do it. Like, even after I had gotten enough strength to walk away from the thing, I got anxiety attacks and panic attacks because I needed to hear his voice. These things are so unhealthy, right? But it was because I didn't know any better. I didn't know. I was just taught that if you have a child, you get married, you get in a relationship, you stay with that person, you build your family, and you're just supposed to, like, most of them were miserable. So that's what my future was looking like it was going to be. but I knew I wanted better. When I went to Colombia, when I ended up going to prison, God, I was in a place where you think you go to prison and you're taken away from, you know, the opposite sex, right? Well, not where I was at. In Colombia, you're allowed to have conjugal visits. You're allowed for men to come into the prison and have sex with you once a month. And if you have a husband or a boyfriend in another prison, they freaking bus you to the other prison so you can go have sex once a month. Now, you're in jail, you're locked up. Do you have any idea how many men come on visits to these prisons weekly and are there like vultures looking for women so that they can come in once a month and have sex with you? They flaunt the things that you need. Like every week, I'll bring you a comienda and I'll bring you your toilet paper and I'll bring you your toothpaste. If I can come have sex with you once a month, I'll put a little bit of money on your book so you can buy some coffee. Like this was my reality. And so many women around me were looking for the opportunity because what do they want in that situation? All they wanted to do was be loved. And it was the wrong kind of love, but so many of them felt as if they needed it. I had plenty of opportunities, more than I can even count. But guys, that was never, ever, ever in, it was never even on my radar. It was never going to happen. Like, absolutely effing not. Like, I was not going to make my life worse for a couple seconds, minutes, or whatever. Like, absolutely not. Like, not to mention that I had a little boy at home who was waiting on me. There was not a chance in the world that I was going to let myself get pregnant. Yes, I could have used a little bit more of attention, but I used that time to focus on making my life better. Now, some people go to prison and they fall in love with God and Jesus, but I was aware of this, right? And part of my religious issues were I was molested in the church. I was drawn to church when I was a little girl. So it wasn't like I didn't know Jesus, I didn't know things, but the place that I was drawn to was also a place where I was abused. So while I was in prison, I did not do that. Now, I didn't completely ignore him either. The person who was sent to me that helped me the most was a pastor. They had their own church. So when she would come and she would pray with me, I didn't turn her away. I prayed with her. I let her pray on me and for me. And I accepted the prayers and I accepted the people from the church who were sent to me to help me. But I was not a Bible beater in prison. Like I wasn't reading scriptures. There were women who were having services and singing and doing all. I did not do that because I knew that people did that. I knew that people in the midst of their deepest, darkest sorrows turned to him. And then as soon as things were great, they ran from him and forgot him. And I just didn't want to fall into that. Okay. So I wasn't ignoring it. I wasn't, 100% for it. Okay. So when you're talking about the sex part and wanting, I get that, right? Like, we're humans, we want affection, we want attention, but there's periods of time that it can come to you and it be all wrong. When when I came home, I was on my same thing. I didn't want no one. I wasn't looking for a boy or just someone to lay down with or any of it. I was on a mission to get my life together, to get my feet on the ground, and to get back to just a little bit of normalcy with my child, okay? And yes, I was more in, I was. When I got out, I was 6 months out in the street in Colombia, and I was in church every Saturday. I was in Bible study every Thursday night with Hilda. And they are 7-day Adventists. So church starts on Friday night at 6:00. We were praying in the house on your knees. Like we wore coverings on our heads. Like we were in church on Saturdays, not Sundays. And so church was kind of like an all the time thing. When Sean a couple weeks ago mentioned about the hours in the middle of the night between 3 and 4 or whatever time it was, Pedro would get up every night in the middle of the night, and he would turn on his light in his bedroom, and he would be at his desk, and he would be reading scriptures. And he always told me he just felt the calling of the Spirit the most at that time of the night. And I didn't ever really understand it, but it's all, it all makes perfect sense. When I did decide, one day I looked at Jeremiah, and we were in our apartment, and I decided I wanted to give him a father. Like I decided it was time. I decided that me trying to be single and think that I was doing the right things, it was actually a deterrent. How can I teach this boy to be a man? Like, yes, I can raise him, right? But how do I teach him how to treat a woman if I've never actually shown him? How do I teach him what's appropriate? Like what is expected? If I've never shown him, if I just let the world show him these things. So I decided I was going to start dating. And guess what? It was an ultimate epic fail in the beginning, because what happened? The same things that I was allowing all those years ago, 12 years before, well, let's say 10, because I dated for about 2 years before I found my husband. Those same type of men were still coming into my life. Men who were lying about having a wife, men who were lying about still being with their child's mothers. Like those men were still popping up in my circle, because you want to go revert back to people who you think know you, and you feel safe with them because they know where you come from, and all the stupid lies that we tell ourselves, right? No stranger's ever going to accept me knowing all these things that I've been through and actually love me. Like you hold those things with you subconsciously if you don't, if you don't work through them. I was going to church. I had bought my house, and I felt like a kick. I felt like God was kicking me in my back. And I wasn't going to Bible studies like I was when I was with Hilda. Social media wasn't what it is today, where, they were just doing a live with their services and I could be in tune with them, right? So I was a little lost. And I did find a church that I was comfortable with. I started going to Bible study. And one Sunday morning, I was leaving church and they had a bookstore. This is specifically for you, Sharon. I went in the bookstore, and I didn't know why I was going in there, but I went in there and there was a book, just one single book all by itself, randomly on the bottom of the shelf. And it was called Becoming God's Best While Waiting for Mr. Right. And it was a woman's Bible study. And as you're reading in the book, there was a place for you to journal. And I had started dating, and my friends tried to hook me up with some guy, and I started dating him, and immediately I didn't feel, this is kind of back to Ada Louise. He was nice and he was kind of attractive, but there was just something about him that wasn't for me. And I felt like I got this feeling from him that he's used to women throwing themselves all over him and getting in the bed with him right away. And I wasn't having that. Like, I had this thing, like, you're getting tested. Like, we're going to be together for a while before anything goes down. Remember, I'm told that I can't have no babies. Like, all these things are going through my mind. So I started this checklist. I knew that I needed more work on myself, but I didn't actually know the right way to do it. But I had little things that there was absolutely no chance that I was going back on it. And I wasn't sleeping with him because I didn't feel like it. I didn't feel moved to. I didn't feel like there was just something about him. After 2 months, I cut him off completely. And I was just like, I'm not gonna, not gonna do this. Guys, you have to have your deal breakers. And for whatever reason, it's not always hard, right? But there's nothing wrong with dating. You have to put yourself out there. I've never ever been attracted to white men. Ever. One time I had a white boyfriend. My very first boyfriend was white, and he was absolutely batshit crazy. He used to try to kill himself in front of me, like literally strangle himself till he was purple in his face because I didn't want to be with him. Like, and that was the end of it. Like, there was just no more going back. After my boyfriend, who was abusive and everything else, I said I wasn't going to date no more black guys. Like, I started doing all the wrong things. I started like Xing off whole races of people because of the actions of just one. And once I put it out there that, like, I want a husband, like, I want somebody to build my life with, like, I want somebody to love me. I want somebody to be a role model for my son. I said, I ain't gonna do that no more. I'm gonna let it be whoever comes to me, whatever race he is, whatever he looks like, I'm going to be open to it, because maybe me saying not this one, not that one was the whole problem, right? Maybe I was shooing away the right ones based off of the wrong things. So after this guy that was no good for me, 2 months, I went on a dating website, and I don't like hair. It grosses me out. I for some reason, like, I'm not attracted to that, guys. Some women are. I'm just not. Sure as you know what, doesn't the guy that pops up in my inbox, he's Asian, tall, and hairy. So I just went with it. He seemed nice. And he was, like, for 8-9 months we dated. It was like a long distance thing, and that was my thing in the beginning. It was long distance because I still had these big huge walls that I didn't want to let people in. I wanted my own time to get to know people. I took things slowly, but I went with what felt right for me, right? Like, I knew that nobody was just going to move up in my house. I wasn't sharing my space with nobody. Like, it was going to take time. Well, he decided he was going to take a job, and he was into his career more than he was into building a life. And he thought I was just going to sit on the side, and I had to break up with him. This guy was the first person ever that, like, he truly wined and dined me. I felt completely out of sorts with him because here I am, a girl that just spent 3 years in prison. I'm a single mother. I have no college education. He was a freaking scientist. When I say wined and dined, this man took me to 5-star restaurants every week. He took me to Vegas for my 30th birthday for a whole week. We took a helicopter ride over the Grand Canyon, landed in the middle, and had lunch. Like, he was good, but he was Asian. He was stuck with his culture. And for all these 9 months, I was a secret. What was even more a secret was the fact that I had a son. He couldn't tell his sister, his best friend, that I had a child. And when I found out about it, that was absolutely it for me. That was hard. That was so hard for me, but I knew it was the absolute right thing for me to do, because there was no way in hell I was going to build a life with somebody who was ashamed of who I was. The thing, if you can't tell somebody that I had a child, how the hell are you going to tell somebody I've been in prison for 3 years? How are you going to explain that one? Or how are you going to explain the fact that I beat a murder case? Like, how are you going to talk about your wife? You can't. So I broke up with him, and I thought I was done with the dating thing. I put myself out there again one more time. I went on Christian Mingle, and within 2 weeks of having that profile up, my now husband was in my inbox. And what I was most attracted to him was his profile, not his pictures, his profile. What scared me the most was that he had 5 kids. And I was told that I wasn't going to have any more kids. I was a single mom of 1 kid. I never wanted to be a single mom again. There were things that I had to work through, right? And I almost ran away from him when he said he had 5 kids, because I was nervous about that. But what I was certain of was that I skipped the part that I was doing my Bible study right before I met him, Sharon. I was sitting at my dining room table. I was reading a part, and I had come to terms with the fact that I may never, ever have kids. And I had told God that I would love him the same, whether he gave me kids or not. But I just believed in my heart that he wouldn't put a desire there for me for all these years for me to stick on that wouldn't allow me to be a mother again. And I poured my heart out. I was boo-hooing at my table about the type of man I wanted, the role model I wanted for my child. I wanted somebody to just show him how to be a man and love on me and show him how, all these things. And 2 weeks later, my husband was in my inbox. Again, it was long distance because he was in another state. But every weekend we saw each other, we made it work. And within on our second date, y'all, he told me he was going to marry me. And I thought he was gone. Like, I thought, okay, I got another crazy one. Like, I ain't messing with him no more. But that is not what happened. And I knew that I had to make a conscious decision to understand that love is, in some ways, it is conditional. It really is. And the love has to be conditional with yourself. It's not based upon what yes, if somebody is doing you wrong, you cannot ignore those things. But things happen in your life. People treat you the way that they do because you allow it. Listen, being with me is not easy. Like, I am a strong person. I have a mind, like, we butt heads a lot, but at the end of the day, he's my person, right? Like, he understands where I'm coming from. He's hard himself, but we are not married based on what the other person. Yes, it is about how we make each other feel, right? And honestly, if it wouldn't have been for Hilda coming in my life and me finding that relationship with God when I did, right now today, I don't know that I would have been so moved to actually get married, right? That want to get married and that feeling that union was necessary to make God happy or something else. I don't think that would be the same right now today. Okay. Yes, I would still be with this man. I would still be building a life with him. But I've made mistakes along the way in this marriage, and so has he. Like, there was a point that after I finally got pregnant, after they said I wouldn't, this man came to me with a vasectomy, y'all. He had 5 kids. He didn't want any more kids. We got it reversed. He agreed to get it reversed to allow me to try to have babies. We got pregnant the very first time we tried, and I lost that baby. And we tried again, and now we have 2 of our own together, right? After he gave me those kids, I went back into that, I got to do anything and everything to give him back, right? Like, he gave me the thing that they said I would never have. It did become about pleasing him and making him happy. And we made some mistakes in that. We went into a business because this was his quote unquote dream, to own his own truck and work for himself. And we did it, and it was a disaster. And it lasted for 3 years. 3 years we lived in a disaster. And it was just, learning things. But guys, like, this whole process of finding myself and knowing that it's not about pleasing someone else. It truly is about doing what makes you happy. Like, love will come to you. It'll come to you maybe when you're not even necessarily looking for it, if you stop with all the roadblocks. And you really all of you deserve to be happy. And we put so many obstacles in our own path, and it just takes some time. And man, listen, like, if I can get through all of those things, we have hard times. Like, we've spoken about divorce a few times because we've made each other unhappy. But at the end of the day, none of the things that happened in my past will ever happen in this relationship. Like, and if they do, like, I'm 100% okay with being all the way out. Like, no one's going to beat on me. No one's going to control me. No one is going to manipulate me. Nobody is going to cheat on me. And this is one thing, like, I don't stress about it. I don't look for it. I know that I could be everything that he needs and anybody needs. If somebody's going to cheat, they're going to cheat. But guess what? I'm not going to be here to be your doormat. Like, that shit's not ever going to fly with me. It takes a while to understand that we allow certain things in our lives and that we also deserve better. And I didn't leave that cheating, no good man all at once. It took years. It took a plan. It took me finally waking up and understanding that I deserved better. It also took 12 years to try to fix the things that he had tainted and broken in me. And I wasn't all the way prepared when I started dating. So, and I'm young, Sharon, like
I was gonna say, you look too young for all of this life.
It happened right away. It happened the first time I gave it a shot. Like, and in ways I felt like it had ruined me forever. And now I'm so grateful for it because I know that I'm young. Like, I know, like, those lessons that it taught me then are something I will never forget. Like, I'll never lose those things, that all the lessons that I learned in that one horrible relationship. Like, it can ruin us as women and men too. Like, some women are not the best. Like, they will have a good man and they will do the absolute wrong things over and over and over and over again to a good man because they feel like they can. Like, we are not, you know, we are not above anything. Like, there's just as many bad women as there are men. But I do believe, like, once we start really evaluating the things that are truly important and knowing that it is not anybody else's job to complete you. I hope everybody stops saying that shit because it's not their job to complete you. It is your responsibility. It is your job to make yourself happy. It is your job to continue to fight for the things that you desperately want because nobody else, even if you have the right person, nobody else is going to fight for your dreams the way that you will. Nobody. It's our responsibility.
Wow. That was an amazing story, Heather. You are an amazing woman. I mean, and you have so much courage and so much love and so much strength inside you. It's just absolutely, I mean, I cried and I laughed and that was just an amazing gift that you just shared with me. And I really want you to know how much I appreciate that because you know, my first marriage, I felt so wrong when I left it that I spent 18 years alone and, you know, had a lover for 15 of them and was married to somebody else. And, you know, it was safe. It was safe because I would never have to do it. And what I had finally come, because it was like, I have to get myself sane enough and smart enough and together enough that if I were single as a mom, I could handle it. And of course, the older I got, the smarter I got and realized that, you know, it's a two-person job to raise a kid. And so I didn't get pregnant, but all I ever wanted was to have 6 children. I wanted 6, then 8, then 10, then 12. You know, I got back to like maybe just 1, please. but so then when I got married the second time, it was kind of like, well, just do it. Of course, it never occurred to me that I could just date and not get married. So I would just marry these people.
Because that's what you were taught. And I'm learning so much from my mother and my mother-in-law, like watching. And even my grandmother, she was absolutely miserable in her marriage. My grandfather too, yet they stayed married. They stayed married. And then what they were taught, y'all were taught that you're just supposed to take somebody's bullshit because that's what you're supposed to do. Like, so I don't think it's a coincidence that marriage doesn't work so much, but not necessarily that it can't work. It's because we weren't taught the right things. We weren't taught the right reasons why you should be married and why and how a marriage should work. Like, people get married for the wrong reasons.
Well, and I would also look, Heather, at my parents who, they were so miserable. My mother was only happy when she was pregnant.
Sit down.
She had 12 pregnancies, 6 live births. And when my youngest sister was killed in a car accident, I mean, I just watched them hate each other, you know, like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? And I would, if there was one quality that I would want in a relationship, it would be to really honor and respect and love the man I'm with, because I don't, you know, it's like,
It
I
starts
haven't
with you,
ever been with
Sharon.
somebody who I really loved enough, you know,
Yes.
whether or not they loved me. I didn't love them enough. And I would never do it again unless I really, really
You
honored.
don't have to. You don't have to unless it's right? Like, there's nothing, God still loves you. Like, you don't have to be running around and feeling like you have to sleep with everybody that you meet. You can go have dinner with someone. Like, and if you don't like them, you don't got to talk to them again. Like, that's absolutely fine. Like, and that's what I started telling myself. Like, when I felt weird about going on these dating sites, I'm just like, well, it's no different than going to a grocery store and meeting a complete stranger and thinking like, oh, but why are you doing that? Oh, because generally they're attractive or you're attractive to them. Something superficial like that. And when I started crushing, you know, or taking down those barriers, those things that, oh, if he's this, I'm not going to date him. If he's that, I'm not going to. When I started removing them from, you know, my whatever, my guideline, like it was a lot easier. It was simple. I either felt good around this person or I didn't. Like, he didn't matter what color he was. It didn't matter how much hair he had on his body. It didn't matter none of those things mattered. It mattered how I felt. It mattered about his mind. It mattered about what he wanted for his future. It wasn't about what he could provide me, because I was already providing myself everything that I needed. I was just looking for someone to complement me, not complete me.
Right.
And that is what it took for me, you know, like, yeah. And you gotta be able to do the hard things. You gotta be willing to stand up and say, shit, this hurts. Like, I don't want to be alone. Like, I thought I was doing the right thing, but you know what? Being with somebody and being miserable for however many years I'm willing to deal with it, that's even worse. So I'm going to deal with the heartache right now. I'm going to do the hard thing right now and leave this person, and I'm going to find someone even better. And that's hard, right? But it's necessary. It's necessary for your well-being. It's necessary for your mental health. And there's nothing wrong with being single for the rest of your life either, as long as you're happy.
See, and I don't mind being single for the rest of my life. I just feel as though there's a difference between being single and saying I'm happy, and this other part of me that's saying you're hiding. You're not, you know.
There's so many people who are faking it. Oh, I'm married, and they on the outside they pretend to be happy and have everything that they want, and they're not.
Yeah. And the other model that I had was ultimately my mother killed herself, and I swear it was because she couldn't leave him, and she was so miserable she finally just killed herself. And it was like, not me, I'm out of here, you know. Nobody's worth killing myself over, kind of
No,
thing.
they're not. No, they're not. Nor are they worth stealing your joy, Sharon.
Yeah.
And you're finding yourself, and I'm watching you. I'm watching your positivity, that smile, your growth, like, and it's gonna continue, right? It doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry about how old you are. Like, people find love at the weirdest times of their life. Like, just continue working on building you up. Stop worrying so much about making your sisters happy or doing something that pleases them. Like, stop saying I'm sorry. Like, you got this. You got this.
Heather, you are amazing. I mean, I am in awe of, I mean, I've kept my world relatively narrow compared to what a lot of you guys have gone through and done in life. And I am so in awe of your courage and your willingness to go the distance and do it for, and grow in yourself and not just give up and go kill yourself like my mother
Yeah.
did. You know, I mean, I just think I'm just blown away by your story, and I thank you for sharing it.
You're welcome, love.
Is your last name really Love? I love it.
It really is. Check that out. Like, my husband's last name is Love. I married that name. I didn't believe him at first either, but that's legally our name.
And
Wow.
that's the misfit community. Which
Wow.
we witnessed. This is
Wow.
why it's important to be a part of a community that's not a kingdom.
Brittany said something in the comments earlier about when do we take responsibility for what we attract, and that is 100% accurate. Like, once I started realizing that these good for nothing guys that were coming into my life, it was because I was allowing it. It was what I was attracting. It was what I was looking for, somebody who fit a certain picture, who looked a certain way. And it's all about perspective. It's all about the things that we're doing, and it is our responsibility.
And it's the difference is that at some point they were good for something until we woke up and they became good for nothing.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing that Sean said to me the other day that really hit home was, you know, I look at people and I'm sorting for their miserable marriages and their misery.
Stop.
And they may not be miserable. You know, who am I to say, I mean, they're doing a dance that they want to do, and who am I to say that it's the wrong dance or that they shouldn't be doing that? And it's like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. Well, I don't have to do their dance. All I have to do is my own.
You shouldn't compare yourself to anyone else either, right? Like, it shouldn't be, you know, whether my happiness is better than, you know, theirs, right? It should never, I'm not comparing my relationship to anybody else's ever. It's about you, because we are all different. We all require different things. We all want different things. Different things make us happy and safe and secure and stable. So when it's just like your weight loss journey, when you start comparing your story to somebody else's, it's so easy to get discouraged because the grass is not always greener. Some things happen faster for other people. So I'm not comparing my marriage or my relationship to anybody else's. That doesn't help you.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I didn't mean to hijack, Sean.
No,
But
that was awesome.
like,
Leather,
they didn't
Leather,
want me to talk at all when I was outside.
your family, and you had a story to share that impacted many people's lives and will impact them for generations. So, and a year ago, you wouldn't have been sharing these stories.
No, not at all.
So part of it is a cathartic conversation to allow you to continue to grow yourself, to stand on your stage, to be the leader that you are, to be this amazing soul that you are, to undo some of the things that have been done, and to show other people that it's possible. That's what this is. That anytime we have a conversation, anytime we spill out into other people, we show them what's possible. We either show them what's impossible, we either show them what's not possible, we show them what could be possible. And in our spilling out, what we spill into others, does it allow them to have possibility? Does it allow them to open up and see the chance of their own warts and bumps and bruises, that it ain't so bad? Because if we are going to compare ourselves, I'd rather not compare myself to Sofia Vergara, right? I ain't never going to be like that. Yet when I hear your story, I'm like, well, none of that's happened to me. And the only thing that we can hope for in our profession is that somebody hears our story and that somebody says, if they could do it, I could do it. And how many of you now believe if you hear Heather and you hear what she's been through, you're like, what's your excuse? And what excuse am I using that Heather's already crushed and turned into dust and turned into a stepping stone into concrete to move forward? So there you go.
Sean, I'm also
I
thinking in
appreciate you.
terms of like how you said, are you talking about your, family, you're talking about your network marketing team, that I think that's part of my attraction to network marketing, is that it's an opportunity for me to really love on people in a genuine way and to go past this history and to the time may or may not come when I happen to meet a man in network marketing who frankly is worth my energy and my time.
Yep.
Because I don't really want to waste my time kissing a bunch of frogs just to have a relationship,
Absolutely.
Time is very precious.
Well, very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you for opening up.
Wow. Heather, you're amazing. And then Brittany, you're amazing. I mean, I don't know if you're in a relationship or not, Brittany, but you're wise and wonderful. And I mean, I know the things that you're saying, and at the same time, translating them into day-to-day meetings with people is very different, and there's one guy in this complex who, we listen to music together, but it reminds me of my old days, sex and drugs and music. We don't do the sex part, but, but it's like, I'm afraid of him because I don't see the bigger potential of how far I've come within that, but at least we can have a real conversation, unlike a lot of people that I can't even have real conversations with because most people, I just don't have real intimate conversations. And without that, I'm bored. I mean, it's not even bored. It's like, I'm just not interested. Then I become their mother or their sister or their, I mean, there's more intimacy in this community than, and I once read a definition of intimacy, that it's the willingness to open yourself up, say something that's important to you without knowing how the other person is going to respond or receive it. That, because a lot of times people say things knowing how the other person, that they're going to get the right accolades or whatever. But when you can open yourself up and be honest from your heart, not knowing how it'll be received, that they might look at you like you got four heads, that's being more intimate. And that's, to me, my goal in going through life is to be intimate, and people do look at me a little like I've got four heads. Can't you ever just tone it down a little?
So Sharon, there was a couple of things that I wanted to say. First of all, this conversation is so spicy. I love it. Like, I didn't think that I would be having sex at 74 years old, but if that's just the way the world works, then that's just the way the world gonna have to work. Like, and
It's gonna happen.
I don't know. I didn't even think that was like a thing, but hey, I thought after menopause, women were just like, whatever. But if not, then
Brittany,
I guess I have
something. Brittany, you know the most sex that happens like worldwide is in the nursing homes, and I know that for a fact because that's like where all the highest STD rates are. I'm just throwing that out there, but
OMG, I was only there for a month, y'all, and those old ladies be attacking those men.
My best friend for years is a woman who was older than me, and she had this boyfriend when she was like 76 who was 46.
And he traveled the world. He'd come in, and it wasn't, like he would just come see her when he was in town, or he was in town. He was actually a fairly famous person, but she knew exactly what it was. She wasn't she wasn't looking for long-term marriage or anything else. She was just looking for, she got, I just want to have sex once more. Well, she had sex up until she was 87 when she died.
That's interesting that you said that, because that was a question that I was going to pose to you, because I don't know if I necessarily had to deal with this before, but I've said before that I've done a lot as far as love and how love is supposed to work and blah, 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 blah. But I think that we have this concept of love, this kind of love, and then that kind of love, and then this kind of love, and then that kind of love. And depending on which type of love it is, we put this expectation on what it's supposed to look like. So when it doesn't look exactly how we expect for it to look, we invalidate it. So you can and I had to learn this by, let's just say, for instance, there are some people who say like, oh, okay, I need to hear that you miss me. Do you miss me? I need to hear you say that you miss me. I need to hear that you say that you love me. And some people they're not verbal, and I guess that can go into love languages. But because people aren't saying it, you say that it's not there when they're actively pouring into to show you these things, which is the way that they express their love. So sometimes you do have that intimacy with people, or you said that I can't have intimate conversations, or you don't have intimate conversations, but you're having an intimate conversation right now. So the possibility to have those conversations is there. You're just stopping yourself from having those conversations because you're like, okay, that person doesn't qualify for me to have this type of conversation with. It's so much stuff that I just want to say, because I'm still in my 20s and I don't understand the concept of marriage the way that it is now. I know that marriage was initially constructed as a business relationship to maintain wealth in between families, to transfer from family to family. And only recently have people really gotten married for love, So I don't believe that people have to actually get married as far as under the government to validate that. But because that's the structure that's placed upon us, we take that type of structure and, oh my God, I dated this guy who I actually stole this shirt from, who when he dated me, I didn't date him. But it's like we go through this checklist, like, okay, we went to dinner, check. She met my mom, okay, check. We had sex, oh, check. And it's like you check all these things off and you're just like, damn, where the love at? Where the relationship? Where's the marriage? And it's like you can't go through that checklist. It has to just be, each and every relationship has its own individual fingerprint. It has its own individual design. The love that you share with someone is the love that you share with yourself, that you have with yourself. It's me, you, and we in a relationship, right? And the way that we construct our relationship is how we construct our relationship. It doesn't necessarily have to look, because you said something like, oh, look at me with love or something. It's just like, I'm really silly. So when people that I love, I don't look at them like, oh my God. I might look at them like, ugh. You know what I'm saying? But it's still the way that I show my love to them. And that's still a look and an act of love. So I think that you're putting these expectations. It just always boils down to expectations and looks. And then when you say stuff like, oh, I don't think that I'm ever going to, I don't think that I'm ever going to, do this or do that. It's like, what? Need anything from the store? What store y'all going to? Nah, I'll text y'all if I need it. Let me know what store y'all going to. I don't know if I need something. I might get some bananas. I need some. Okay. So, it's like, when you say those types of things, when you're looking to get into dating, because Ata was saying she doesn't know how to date, and it's not, I found out that it really is a how-to guide on how to date, and I was like, I don't want to play all these games. Like, I don't want to play all those games. If I'm meeting somebody that I have to play those types of games with, you're not the one for me. You know, like that's just not the model that I'm going for and I'm looking for. But we try to, we be like, okay, I want to play the game, and you meet somebody that want to play the game, and you be like, huh, okay, I guess I could play the game, or I'm gonna try to see if I can make them not want to play the game. And we try to force ourselves to fit in these spaces, and it's like, babe, you just don't fit in this space. It's okay. It's okay if you don't fit in this space. That's just not the one for you. But you kind of want to force it for you to be for you. And when Heather was saying, about how like she went through all of this stuff within her relationship, and I too just for the first time ever just dealt with actually being physically like abusive to each other, and I was like, this is weird. But I was like, okay, I really love this person, but I was like, nah, this ain't really it. If it like, how do I put this? Love is happiness, is joy, it's growth. Growth is painful, right? So but it's when you are growing in love, yes, it's painful because we so badly want to not let that thing go, right? But it's not painful to the point where it's detrimental. So it's like we try to call these things love, and it just ain't it. You just stop trying to make it be it. It's just not it. And we try to trick ourselves because it feels good temporarily, but it doesn't speak to our higher selves, or it doesn't speak to who it is that we want to be. And I just had this realization the other day, because for me, I'm not in a relationship, and it takes a lot for me to be in a relationship, and I won't be in a relationship until I can date them and I love them for who they are. I love them for who they are going to be tomorrow and the next day, and who they are going to be in the future. And I'm in love with the becoming, right? Because we're always in the state of becoming. And people get into these relationships and they get into these marriages, and they're not in a state of a becoming. They're like, okay, this is what it is. This how it's always going to be. As soon as somebody kind of like shift, they like, oh, hell no, divorce, this ain't it, you don't even love me, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, that's not it, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know, I be saying a lot to just say so little, because right now it'd be so much that's in my mind, but I hope it makes sense what I'm saying.
It does, Brittany. I relate to you a lot, and but I also know that it's really easy for me to stand back and say, well, I'm not going to get in a relationship unless da 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 da, and 20 years go by. I mean, literally.
But also, are you even giving yourself, because you're gonna have to go through it to grow through it. Because I was the same way, and I'm still young, but I was like, I don't want to get hurt. Oh my God, no, I don't want to get hurt. And y'all know I got control issues. I'll be like, I need to know what's gonna happen tomorrow. I need to know what's gonna happen today at 3:30, like with this relationship. But it's like, I'm not gonna, if I don't put myself out there to get hurt, I'm never even gonna understand what I do like or what I don't like. I'm just gonna, hey, these are all the things that I like. Nothing looks like what I like. But those things change. If you would have asked me a year ago if I wanted to be married, which I still don't, but even if I wanted to be a mother, I was like, no, a kid? What's the point of having? I'm like, people actually plan to have kids. I don't get it. Like, I was like, I just don't understand. Why do people want to have children? It's just not in me, But the more that what I took from that, I was like, okay, you know what? I understand that I'm a woman, and I do things that people do, so I may potentially have a child. So I'm like, okay, if I could have a child, I need to psychologically prepare myself to be a parent. And the more I personally develop myself, the more excited I am, or not excited, but the more comfortable I am with becoming a parent. You know what I'm saying? Because
I've learned more about love from children than any place else.
Absolutely.
Children have taught me more about myself and about love and about joy. It's like I miss having children in my life.
Brittany, I wish I had that mind frame before I became a mom. Like it was great had that becoming a mom again, right, in my 30s. But had I felt like that and had that knowledge that you have in your 20s, a single woman with no children, I feel like I would have been in a much better place. I'm grateful for the kid that I had.
Yeah, it's okay because the opportunity to change is not, it's not Monday, it's not at the top of the month. It's literally every single second the
It
opportunity to
is.
switch.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, I'm not gonna think like this. Not gonna think like that. Okay, that doesn't serve me. Not gonna do that. And that even just goes down to being in a relationship. Like it teeters on a line of healthy and toxic, right? To
Absolutely.
you have to understand who to forgive and who to work with. And that's what Sean was talking about, discernment, because I always talk about discernment and just things that speak to your soul, things that speak to your spirit. Intuition is a very loud thing, right? So it's
That we ignore too much.
we don't ignore it. We don't ignore it. We hear it and we feel it. You like, damn, I'm dumb. I don't need to be here. I need to leave him. But then you be like, let me just stay in this comfort zone. Let me just keep dealing with this thing that is not serving me. And and we act as if we cannot. It's okay to leave people. It's okay to be married and get a divorce. Like that's okay. Like you just aren't equally yoked. I'm really about being equally yoked. And it's not even about, oh my God, we like the same foods in the same movie. Like, no, it's not about that. It's just about spiritual connection,
But Brittany, also when you talk about being equally yoked, that is also a place where a lot of times people will, just kind of breathe, this is comfortable. And then when one of them starts to grow, the other one has to step up and grow also, because they're no longer equally yoked. And people think that, oh, this is it forever and it's going to be just like this. And it's not, because if it's vibrant, if it's alive, each one of you is going to be growing and call forth growth in the other if there's mutual respect and caring and a desire to be your best person. So essentially what you're looking to do is continually grow into your, I mean, I may be 74, but 20 years from now, I'm going to be a different person. I know that. I change every day.
Yeah.
Sean put something in me and I was like, oh, that's a good
But you
piece.
also have to give the person the same care that you give to yourself. You also have to, if you know that I grow every day, you know that other people also grow every day. So we put these things in I do. We're like, no, okay, you need to be like this at all times.
No.
When I know that I'm changing all the time. So it's like the thing that you give to that you allow for yourself. What is it? Do unto others as you do it unto the golden rule, whatever that is. But it's like you have to also give them the same space to do the same, because like I said, it's a you, a me, and then a we. Like people get into relationships and it's just us, and it's like, no, I'm human. Before I was in this relationship, I was a human.
You also, and the other thing is that there's a conscious choice to cherish one another. There's a conscious choice that says, I value you, and wow, this is different from you, and I'm going to step up to the plate because I value you, and if you're changing, there must be something here for me to learn from, because you cherish one another. But when people go off and they just do their own thing, and then after a while they look up and it's like, who is this person that I'm with? So you have to that's the part when people say you have to work at a relationship. It's like you work on yourself and you put it back together. You go apart and you come together. You go apart and you come together, and you do that on an hourly, minutely basis in a way.
Yeah. I would say
when Sean gets up in the morning, he says, how can I be a better dad? How can I be a better husband? He's cherishing his marriage. He's cherishing his wife. He's cherishing his son. And he's cherishing himself, because he can't become a better husband and a better father if he's not loving himself.
Absolutely. So because in a relationship, sometimes nothing in this life is permanent. Like everything is temporary. So so a lot of things are in a state of impermanence at all times. So if you're in a relationship, you just have to know that, hey, sometimes this thing has come together for me to learn from, them to learn from me, or vice versa. Or both simultaneously. So it's like, if you're growing, that love that you have for the other, or the love that they have from you, if someone sees you growing and they like get jealous or there's negative things that come from that, you have to give them a little bit of time. I'm not gonna say a lot of time, but you have to give them time, you know, and express how they feel to do better. And if they don't do better, then you just have to leave them. That's how I feel.
That's a
Everybody.
struggle, Brittany, because, and you're right, it does take time. So like people struggle, they feel like when you start growing and you start changing, like they're not good enough anymore or you don't want them anymore. And it doesn't have to be that, but it does take time for everybody's not always going to be on your level, right? And it doesn't mean that they can't change or that they won't change, but it can't, again, it can't be something that we force upon them, right? We all move on our own pace, but if you allow them the ability, right, you allow them the time, like you're absolutely right, it does take time for them, and it is intimidating. It's very intimidating because they start to feel like they're not good enough.
Right. You always, and one of the things Sean does on this call is he lifts everybody up. He sees the strengths and the beauty that each of us is expressing, and we lift one another. So if we're, you know, looking for what's wrong and we never see what the person did that's right, it's exhausting for them and for us. Whereas if we can just see the beauty and celebrate the greatness, then they're more willing to grow into the person we're really wanting. And it's not even about making, it's like if we focus on what's beautiful and what we cherish, then we get more of that. And if we focus on what they're not doing right, then we get more of that.
Yes.
You know?
Somebody said to me was, we hear so much, oh, be positive, be positive, be positive, be positive. And it's not about being more positive. It's just about eliminating the negative. You know what I'm saying? And we say this all the time. Look at the things you say, the way that you frame things. Look at the words, the way that you talk to yourself, the way that you talk to others. If there's an issue, you don't say, hey, you're ugly. You say things, or let me take that back. So when I was dating, I was telling someone, in order to get somebody to do more things of what I like, I don't say, why don't we go out to eat more often, or why don't we spend more time together. I say things like, I love spending time with you. I love when we sit on the couch and watch TV. I love when we're able to experience new foods together. I love that. I love the look on your face when you try something new for the first time and you hate it. Like, and that just makes, so they associated what I love with that thing and they want to do more of it. You know, I love when you buy me stuff. It makes me feel good. Spend money on me, like take me places. But it works. Like even in your romantic relationships, but in all relationships, you know, like it just helps people to show up more in that area versus, why we don't never go out to eat? And it's just like, damn, you know what I'm saying? Like, why you have to, I ain't obligated, you know what I'm saying? That's how they're gonna start to feel. So when you just switch those words up and say the right words and eliminate that negativity, it increases the growth within others. It's really cute. Try it for a week. Oh my God. And like just see what you can get.
Yeah.
And may I add to that, with Sharon?
Mm-hmm.
Are you expecting, and I went through this phase is the reason I can identify with you. We want the fairy tale. You know, I heard you say
I
you
want
want
it
that
all.
book.
You're right. I do. I want it
Yeah.
all.
But what I have encountered in the last few years is learning that, and I noticed you had a struggle with putting your bucket of love down. You have to love with no expectations of anything in return. And that's not easy when it comes to a romantic, intimate relationship. And my last relationship was so serious for me and the hardest to get over. And thanks to Gigi and the anger that I was holding on to, I realized that. But we want that fairy tale. We want someone to look at us with those dreamy eyes, like we're just it for them. But
I
is
want
that real?
somebody who feels like they're a better person for being with me, that they like who they are because they're with me.
I mean, not because they're with me, but when they're with me, it helps them to love themselves more. And that's the way I want to be when I'm around somebody. And so if I'm around you and I hate who I am, I don't want to be around you.
So you're putting a huge expectation on someone else. What if love is already someone you already know? But because you have this idea in your mind of what it should look like and the expectations put on it, you see what I'm saying? You're limiting your love to this fairy tale. And I know exactly, because I mean, like I said, I just went through this expectation in the last year. I mean, my thing was, if I can't have the fairy tale, I don't want anybody. And
well, and it depends on, you're using the word fairy tale, and I think there's a difference between what I call a fake fairy tale and a depth of, it's like, I do expect an unusual relationship. There's no question about that. And it's worth the wait for me at this point. I watched my niece with this guy that she's with, and they met on a dating site, and she consciously decided she didn't want to grow old alone, and she kissed a lot of frogs along the way. And I think maybe if I were as wise as I am now 20 years ago, I might have been more willing to do that. But at this stage, it's like time. I'd rather be love in the world. I'd rather be the love that I want, and that I want, that raises up the planet, raises up anybody who walks into my world. And if they bounce off of it, then they don't belong there. But if they come into that space and they grow with me, I don't think it'll be, I really don't think it would be an effort. But I also feel like I have to be open enough to say, to not exclude men from it, not exclude romantic relationship, not exclude. And I think I've been excluding it as a possibility. And it's like, and when I go to a convention and some guy wants to go to bed with me because he's on convention and he thinks it's safe and I'll take care of myself and I won't expect anything from him, that's not going to work for me at this stage of my life.
It doesn't have to. I'm at that point too. It's like, I'm not hopping. I'm like you. If I hopped into bed with every man that I went on a date with, oh, good grief, but do you understand, like Brittany had said in the chat earlier, you have to love comes from you. Can you love freely and not expect anything in return from anyone? I mean, I've since May 2nd, I had to do that. I've learned to do that with my family.
Yep.
And when I was raised, it hit me really hard this morning. My dad loved us, but not unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
And at 40 years old, let me tell y'all this real quick. 40 years old, I had been divorced for 2 years, moved in with this guy. I was 40 years old, mind you. And my dad said, "What are you doing? I'm coming to get you. No man is moving in with you." 40 years old, mind you. And in the last 3 years, my dad always gives us money for Christmas. And my dad lives about 3 hours from me, and always for our birthday. But if we don't meet him at a restaurant to have lunch with him, we don't get the money. It's all, he loves us with a condition attached. And that's what I have always done in my relationships, especially the last one that I was in that was so hard to get over, was, I love you. Now, what are you going to do for me? Or, I love you. I'm doing these things for you, but you're not doing anything to make me happy. You're not doing what I want. And I think the only reason the relationship was so hard to get over is because I had so many of those deep feelings of, well, you don't do anything for me. I do this, this, and this. What do you do? I mean, that was always the argument I had with him. And so I went through that phase of the fairy tale. And you said you're the happiest you've ever been. Can you not be content loving others without any expectations or intentions, including your family, and be this happy?
Yeah.
Yes, because people are definitely going to disappoint you. It's always going to happen.
I mean, my thing is, God's going to send me a man, and when he does, they're going to show up with a dozen of my favorite flowers. Well, about 3 days after I said that on a live video, I had a dream. And the man that showed up at my door in the dream had a case of home canned green beans. So now the joke is, until somebody shows up with a case of home canned green beans, it's not the man for me. But you see the expectations, though. You know, I mean, I so get what you're saying. I want someone to love me just for me. I want them to give freely. But that's a
I want
lot of
somebody
me.
to
I'm
see
asking a
me.
lot of
Let's put
somebody
it that
else.
way, Michelle. It's like, you know, in the movie Avatar where she says, I see you. I want to be seen, warts and all, extra fat and all, but seen underneath. I want my heart to be seen. I want, when I'm not able to love myself in that moment, for somebody to look at me and just love me, you know. One of my favorite memories with my last husband was one time we were getting a new toilet put in the bathroom, and the wall behind it hadn't been painted the same color as it was like an old paint job, and the new toilet was going to show this ugly old paint. And so I was a therapist for kids, so I had these paint brushes that were like an inch wide. And I'm in there, wait, let me paint the wall with this inch wide paintbrush. And he looked at me, stood at the door, and he said, I love you, you know. And that was like the happiest moment of our whole marriage, I think, because I felt seen and loved, if that makes any sense. Because, you know, I'm sitting there painting the wall with this stupid paintbrush. And even the workmen looked at me and they said, we'll do it. And they brought back real paintbrushes and painted the wall. Because at first they said, wait, well, we can't do that. We just put in those. And they did it, you know. but there's something about and about being able to completely take care of myself and yet want to take care of another in a way that makes them feel good, you know. And at the same time, not because you have to or it becomes an expectation. You know, I mean, I'll cook for you, but not if I have to, you know. Anyway, what you guys are also making me realize is that I do have more of a concept of love than I have given myself credit for. I'm not completely clueless. And there was a reason I was a good therapist for 14 years, you know. But at the same time, I have to just make that decision. Am I willing to open my heart? And I just don't want to have any blocks to my loving in any way or to building my life. It's like I want to be all in life, which means love.
And you can do that without a man.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, it's not about having a man or not having a man, but it's about, I've been excluding men. I haven't, you know, I've had energetically the barrier that says I'm not open to dating or a relationship or a man. Oh, I'm too busy. I work too hard. I don't have time for this. You know, I don't want it. And that's a very different energy than being open to what's life presenting before me.
Hey Sharon, I feel like you need to have a conversation with my great aunt, and I wanted to bring this up. So my great aunt is 101 years old. She has never married. She has no kids. She lives by herself. She still drives a Ford F-150. She's about to be 102 this year. Okay, she still picks up my son, which like blows my mind. She zip lines every year. She like lives in nature. She's surrounded by nature, and she's probably one of the happiest souls I know, like that I've ever met. And I always like ask her questions like, how come you never got married? How come you never wanted to have kids? And I feel like maybe that's one of the reasons why she's living so long. But like, you guys should see her and talk to her, because she, oh my God, next time if I'm like around her, I want to bring her on one of these calls, because I feel like because she loves herself so much, and she just loves just being in nature and surrounded by God. Like, she still goes to church on Sundays. Like, she is just amazing. And I feel like when you fall in love with yourself and you're not looking for love, because she had boyfriends back in the day. She was in like World War II, and she said she had a boyfriend back then, I think, but she never married. So I don't know, I just wanted to bring that up, that like, you're 70 now, or 70 something, I think you said. Like, when I was born, that's how old she was, and she's still going. She's like strong. Like,
I love it. I love it, Elizabeth. And she sounds like an incredibly wonderful woman. I like that.
she's a fight. Into her memory, you guys, I feel like too, you have to do like Sudoku, crossword puzzles, read the newspaper. She reads every single day. Her mind is so strong. Like, she even like broke her arm not that long ago, because she's like outliving every dog she's ever had. So her dog like yanked her too hard when she was like walking the dog. It like went for a rabbit, and so it like pulled her, and it broke her arm. And so when she went to the hospital, she like healed as like a 20-year-old would, and the doctors were like mind blown. They're like, wow, like, how is that possible? And like, they're wondering like what her diet was and everything. But you guys, like, she eats meat, she lives off of sugar right now. That's like what she's been living off of since the last 30 years I've known her. Like, the only thing she can't eat is like nuts. That's the one thing she can't have. And then she doesn't do lactate. Like, she still drinks milk, but it's because she's like happy. I swear to God, like, she's just happy. She's content with herself, and like the love that she, like, just surrounded by nature. She hates visiting the city with like all the people. She loves like being surrounded by like the birds, the snakes. If there's like a snake on her property and it's not poisonous, like, my grandma will want to kill it, whereas like my aunt will be like, no, put it back, it's God's creatures. And so I don't know, I feel like once you find that for yourself, you'll just be like, live until you're 120 like her, because she's a firecracker.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Sean, let's build this business so I can live to 120 and be able to take care of myself.
Delia, I see you got your hand up.
Hello.
Hello.
Are you gonna let me be the last one?
Well, I see Elizabeth has her hand up, so I don't know if it was about her aunt, but okay, good. So we're gonna go to you and then Elizabeth.
Sharon, you know that my second marriage has been as difficult as my limitations. Is it not? You also know that by the miracle of God, because I've told you, marriage came into my life the second time. So as I got this book in the mail, what chapter did I open? Nurturing our relationships. The way that I look at love today, since marriage in retreat and a year and a half ago, is totally different. And then when Sean and Rhonda gave me that unconditional loving to love myself and to choose joy, as Sean did with me the 1 hour joy exercise for like as long as I wanted to do it. I don't know how long I kept it up, Sean, but what I see in parallels between all of us who have been in more than one relationship is that at one time we did not have what it took to get over the limitation that showed up in our lives. And that happens with networking. I'm experiencing it. Okay, I'm married and I am going over the limitations in a joyful way, and it's happening. And I'm seeing transformation in my home. I've told you both that before. In networking, as difficult as it gets, again, I am experiencing my own limitations. And as I reach out and open myself, open my heart, and accept myself with my limitations at the moment, that I know that if I accept them, there's a force bigger than me that's going to make me cross over that limitation. And then I'm going to look back and say, well, yesterday I couldn't do the line on closing, or I couldn't do the line on opening, or I couldn't do the call to action. And the same thing happens in a woman-man relationship, because we're humans and no one grows in a perfect situation, and none of us is a perfect human being to have a perfect relationship. So as Heather brilliantly was sharing, she might not have a college degree, but in my opinion, she's beyond a doctorate. You can learn through life what others learn at a university, knowledge level, not application. And when Heather shared the part, well, here I am, remarried. I'm happy because I have 5 children of his previous marriage and my child, and then I got pregnant. So that was the new, not obstacle, because a child is a blessing, don't get me wrong. It was the unknown that showed up that she had to cross over. In my marriage, it was the fact that aging, when you get married at 63, aging can happen for any of the partners, and disease as well, and health conditions. So as it came, I realized that even though I wanted to part away from this marriage, at the core of each other, because the marriage didn't dissolve. Even when we went to do the papers, Larry didn't want to dissolve the marriage. I didn't either. So we said, well, we don't know where this is taking us, but let's cross the next limitation, which in that case is God. So I'm not going to go into details because we've heard enough testimonies, but I want to leave the call today networking, business, girlfriend to girlfriend, son to mother, mother to son, any relationship. He applies it to marriage, but to me, this goes to everything. I highlighted in my book. Let me share a visual that I learned a long time ago. Imagine we have a river. There is a tall tree on each side of the river. You take each tall tree and bring it up to the midpoint or 50-50 point in the river. In this position, for those of you who are visual. Branches to branches, trunks on opposite sides. And lash those 2 trees together to form a bridge. However, it is a tremendously weak bridge. The bulk of the 2 trees are not supporting each other. Only just the tips. They're bound together only by the lashings. There really isn't any strength. And then he points in the next paragraph how when the tree is supporting one another by the quarter of the tree trunk and by the roots, how the bridge is strong and people can cross over. And these two networking, I can relate it to my life because I had the intention to become a millionaire on my first networking company, the one that Sharon made lots of money and Delia made none, because I was doing the business, learning it. I was learning it because I came from a classroom. I didn't have the experience that Sharon brought into that. And I'm not comparing myself, I'm just contrasting here. Sharon brought expertise from Wall Street. I was just a classroom teacher when I went into Liberty League. But what happened was, I could have very well done it. The universe aligned for me, and yet I said, no, God, I'm not getting on that boat. I've told the story before. I had one of the top trainers call me at home and say, I am an hour away from you. I live in West Palm Beach. I know that you've been here 9 months and it hasn't exploded yet, but you have everything that it takes. And I went to doubt when the limitation came that I didn't have the money that month to pay for the website to run. And I was going back into the classroom and they told me, look, Delia, you're gonna be making money again as a teacher. You can very well do this business. And I told the trainer, I don't see myself doing this because I spent my last penny and I'm going back to teach school. I was closed-minded. I didn't get on the boat. So it's as life happens, we're gonna get many boats for work, for business, for marriage, for dating, for a new opportunity to get a new purse, a Louis Vuitton or whatever of your choice, or maybe one from Target, whatever your choice is. Opportunity shows every day, but are we putting the focus to take the best ability from us to put ourselves in that opportunity that we want, whether it is a purse, a marriage, a new girlfriend in our life, a new grandson that you want to take care of, a new nephew or niece, or maybe a next door neighbor that you can do service with. And I mean, it blows my mind. It blows my mind how life is about riding and flowing in everything that comes up, and we choose what our mentor says here, choose joy, because the universe will take you across. And that's how we build strong bridges, by opening ourselves and being vulnerable. I'm being vulnerable right now. I'm telling you that my marriage has not been perfect, and you know more than anyone. But does that make me a weak person? Does that make my husband a weak person? No. It shows the two of us exactly like most of us are, human. With our imperfections, we become bigger than the picture that we see in I Love Lucy show. Even though Lucy disclosed herself very defective, I like that about her. But you know how we watch Hollywood comedies, now they're making them more real and they paint the picture the way that it is. But in the past, the comedies were perfect women and perfect husbands, which is just the ideal that doesn't exist. What we should be teaching our children in our homes, if we have any, and I shouldn't say should, I will take that back and say, what we can do for our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, is to show ourselves exactly how we are. And when we are in a bad spot, or a spot where our securities or our insecurities are choking because it's a new situation, is what Sean calls the frontier. To know that if we place joy over doubt, we're crossing that bridge. We're crossing that limitation. Why should I worry if I'm gonna date someone, if they have everything that they can give me to make me happy. No, first I'm gonna see how it feels, just having a conversation. And that's what I have to apply for my prospects too, because I realize that with human relationships there, I need to grow. Am I enjoying the conversation just for what it is? And if it's the intention of the universe to take me a step closer to that sale or closer to that relationship in man, women, partnering or marriage, let it be. But I don't need to control the outcome by saying this person is not going to be in my organization because of this, and that. Why not? Maybe somebody else in my organization can relate to them and give them what I cannot give them. There's different personalities, but that doesn't mean I have to zero them out. And as far as meeting gentlemen to find, I never did it that way, but that doesn't mean that it will not work. I believe that we need to be open, and if it is dating to find your soulmate and partner in life, why not date them without any expectations of marriage or making a partner of them, but as a relationship that can bring the wealth or richness which we need. It might not be money, might not be material, but it could be time where the two people can reflect and connect and have an energizing conversation. To me, that's the world, but I mean, everybody's different. But I mean, it's like we gain different things from different people. So instead of going out there thinking, oh, I am going to see if through this meal date, this gentleman is for me or not, or this woman is for me or not. And I have, the last thing that I want to say is, when I was dating online 16 years ago, I dated for a year and then I gave up on that. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I did that because I had two friends that are happily married, and they met their husband in one of those dating sites, which are not needed now because we have Facebook and Instagram. But back then, there was no Facebook, 16 years ago, at least not for the public. Well, I met a gentleman who was 41 years old. Listen to this. I am in the site, I pay, I take the psychological, the social, and the personality test. I meet this man in April of 2004. When he opens up himself to me through chatting, he tells me that he's making all this money, right? I've never been a woman that falls in love for money. I like to be treated correctly. That is my insecurity, which I am the one that has to treat herself correctly and give love to herself. But anyway, the story doesn't end up there. So he says, I'm making all this money. Immediately, my flags go up. And being in Miami and raised in Miami, what do I think? Miami Vice. So I asked him, are you a drug trafficker? So he goes, no, I'm not. And I said, okay, good, because I don't talk to any drug dealers. The man was in the networking company, the first one that I joined. The man did not come into my life to date me, to marry me in that form of love. He came into my life. He was looking for partners in the business. He was desperate to sell his package that he has bought to someone to get out of the business. That was his intention that we learned a year later. The man served me tremendously. How? He had his agenda. I thought that I was in that site to date. He proposes the business. He comes to Miami. I meet him in person. He sells me his package. I don't know that it's his package at the time. Like I told you, I learned that a year later. He goes back to his own life in Michigan. I never saw him again. His family became close to me because they were all networkers, but it gave me the opportunity to learn this world. I didn't even know what networking was. I met Sharon Geest in July of that year at a summit with the company. Sharon was in a separate team. I was with Brent. Sharon was in the opposite founders team. There were two founders and whatever they call them, co-founders, whatever. And never saw Sharon again. Never have seen Sharon in person again, but we see each other on camera, and we, by the grace of God or the universe, were listeners to a call in Weston, Florida in 2012. Now watch this. 2004, I find my first company. I go back to teaching in 2005, 2006. I teach for 7 years, or almost 7 years. In 2012, I decide that I'm going to retire from teaching, that I had it. And I retire. And as soon as I retire, my second company shows up, and I'm there not thinking that it's networking. And I find out after I buy the product that it's a networking company, and the person that
Where'd she go? Delia. Okay, she'll be jumping back on. Elizabeth, go ahead.
I won't be long, you guys, I promise. I know it's already like 12:17 here. So I've missed you guys. I just wanted to bring that up first. Again, just like last week, my son has been still waking up in the middle of the night, and things are going so well with my husband and I. It's not like there's any tension or anything. And so I wanted to thank Michelle because she had such a brilliant idea with like, because my son's afraid of, he like tells me that there's monsters in his room and that's what he's afraid of. So we got like a water gun, and Michelle was like, oh, like just go walk around the condo and spray the house with the water gun to keep the monsters away. I'm like, oh my God, that's such a brilliant idea. So we did that. He's been spraying monsters like left and right, like every single day. Like when we leave to go to the car, like he brings the squirt gun bottle. And I've been just so tired because he wakes me up like at least twice in the middle of the night. Like he wants me to sleep in his room. And this has never happened before. Like he's never been the kid to like want me as his like comfort person. So anyways, sorry. Last night I couldn't take it anymore. I brought him in my room, and this is like his DACA cot that he sleeps in his bed. So I just put it on the floor. And last night he didn't wake up once. And it was because he was in my room with me and my husband. And I just need more ideas because I can't have my 3-year-old sleeping in my bedroom. So I don't know if anybody's got any, like, if you want to help me out here. Because, like, I'm missing my morning calls with you guys. I'm missing Nano's calls. Like, I'm missing everything in the morning. I'm just so tired. I feel like I have a newborn again. My sleep is so disrupted.
Can I say something quick?
Sure.
Yeah.
I used to have this problem when I was a kid. And I used to sleep at my granny's house, and I used to wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, I don't like this. I used to look at, if something was in the room, you know, when you have a chair and you put clothes on it and it becomes the chair. And then when you're a child, you kind of look at it and you go, oh my gosh, it's a monster. It's looking at me. And it's just like a trouser leg or something. And I was like that. But then, yeah, when I stayed at my granny's house, she used to point at the moon and she used to say, I love the moon and the moon loves me. I love the moon and the moon loves me. God loves the moon and God loves me. And she used to say it and I'd be like, yeah, all right, she's saying it again. But then I used to look at the moon and I was always sort of aware of, okay, I've woken up. Okay, I can't actually go and annoy someone else because they're asleep. So it's not really helpful. So then I used to think, I don't know, what can I do to get me back to sleep? So I don't know if that helps, but it helped me. And I think a lot of the times I would try to go and with my mom or do, you know, something. And every time she would just come back and she'd say, right, you know, go back to sleep. I'm here, sort of thing. And then I'd go to sleep and then she would leave me. But every time I tried to go back, she was like, no, you have to kind of figure this out on your own, kind of thing. And it's like tough love, isn't it? It's a bit like
It
it's
is.
something you don't want to do, but you have to do it. You're doing it out of love.
You know, and I cried in the middle of the sleep one time for Monsters too. But you want to know what my mom did? She let me cry, and I knew. And I looking back now, I'm just like, they let me cry for like 1 hour straight in my room, but I cried myself to sleep. And like for me, I can't do
You can't do that. No, you can't do that. You have to be there, and you have to let them know that it's all right. And when they're all right and they're asleep, you go. But then the next time you have to do that, and then you might leave a little bit earlier. So it's like weaning a child off something.
Yeah.
You know. And I watch many episodes of Super Nanny. I love it. I absolutely love it. And you have to realize that whatever's going on is with love. And you can do that in so many different ways. So you'll figure it out. But that's just something that helped me, because I used to look out the window and go, oh, look, there's the moon. Oh, in a minute, wait, there's a cloud in front of it. Oh, I'm going to go to sleep now. So
yeah,
just my little.
If I might share with you as well, the energy during the day has a tendency to reveal itself at night. And not only his and what pours into him, going back to the conversation, what spills into him during the day, but what's spilling out of you as well. What's spilling out of your husband as well.
but he's always at his cousin's house playing with his little cousins, because I'm like studying for my.
Remember, you guys are connected DNA wise. You guys are connected energetically.
Yeah.
So when you go to sleep at night, I would encourage you to listen to binaural beats. I would encourage you to listen to up your frequency during the day.
Listen to them in the daytime?
What's that?
Like listen to the binaural beats in the daytime?
Yeah, I would, because your frequency at night, when when things start to settle down in the universe, it allows us to focus more on internally than externally. Right? When the days slow down, nobody says, I can't stop my thoughts in the middle of the day when they're at lunch. When they go to sleep, they say, I can't stop my thoughts. So something you might want to do is listen to more of your favorite music during the day. Watch more of what you are literally, maybe what you're eating. There may be something, you may have started going to a new restaurant, a new takeout. There could be something as simple and as crazy as that. I don't know.
There is, though. That's funny you say that, but that's something that's really odd that you even said that. We have a new restaurant in our condo downstairs. It's like this new thing, like it's called the Summer House, and they have really good food.
What's the make of the restaurant? What's the theme of the restaurant?
It's the beach. It's the summer, and here's the interesting thing. So the guy who owns it, his son just passed away this year.
Mm-hmm.
And all you see is like just memoir of his son. His name is Michael, and he had Down syndrome, but he was 16 years old and he got cancer. So he was like in high school. He went to a private school. So it was like this. It was really sad. So whenever I go down there to get the pickup food, I wonder if that correlates to, because like I see just like the pictures of Mikey on the wall, like the.
Well, I'd ask your son if he were to give the name to one of the to the boogie boos that are in the room, see what name he gives it.
Oh my God, that would be so interesting if watch him say Mikey or Michael.
Right.
I would die.
How did I know that this restaurant started down below you? That was the energy I felt.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know you well enough to know your dietary habits. So why would I bring up something as oddball as food? And all of a sudden you tell us the rest of the story and you say, funny, you should mention that.
That's honestly, that's kind of mind blowing to me that you even said that. Because if I look back now, when this all started was when I was ordering food from them and taking carry out, and I would bring him with me, but he was sleeping in his stroller or whatever that I carried him. He would pass out, and then I would get my food to go because I would just eat my cheat meal because I eat very clean actually. I don't eat bad, but if it's like my cheat meal night, so they have a.
So does your son have a connection to people? Do people instantly they're drawn to him?
Oh yes.
So guess what? Mikey's drawn to him.
Maybe. I've talked to like people who have like psychic abilities and stuff, and they said my son is very, very old soul, and he's gonna do a lot of change in the world, like good change in the world.
Yep.
Like so many people are drawn to him.
So there you go. I'd pay more attention to that, and I'd ask him. He may have a message, and maybe it's not for you. Maybe it's for the owners downstairs. I know it's all kind of like, well, how did we go from my kid can't sleep and I sleep and he's blah 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 to, wait a minute, funny you mentioned it. There's a restaurant downstairs that has placards of energy sharing somebody who's lost.
Yeah. It's all over the restaurant. I mean, it's beautiful down there, but
it's gorgeous. Absolutely. It's a memorial. Yeah. And your son doesn't have all of the filters that we have to say it's a memorial. He has a connection. So possibly, but that's, again, why does that show up to me that going, you've changed your diet? And you're like, you're nuts, but that happened. So I just see what it is.
So should I not order food from down there anymore?
No, but I'd have a conversation with your son in the daylight now and see if there's some name that he gives it. See if there's a nickname that he would have it. Ask him, they might be wanting to share something with you. What is it that they want to share with you?
Yeah.
Because he is an empath. He does have a connection.
Hey, Noah.
There you go.
Hey, Noah. Noah, what's going on? Do I ask him what the monsters' names are?
No, just that. I mean, you could do that quietly and say, hey, listen, if you were to give anyone in your room a name that sometimes makes you a little frightened, what name would you give it?
Yeah. What's your room's name? Oh, he wants to be tickled now because I was tickling him. I'll have to try it later and I'll let you guys know.
Okay. Well, folks, I have an appointment I have to get to. I appreciate everybody. I love you tons. You all are absolutely amazing. You're staunch misfits because here it is 3 hours later and you're still here helping each other, serving each other, being wise with each other, awakening to stories. You are making the world a better place. We need this. The world needs you. The world needs you to take your platform and to be a little bit willing to awaken yourself. Not that this being woke, I'm not even sure what that means because we're still all waking up. But I would encourage you to have more of what you want and less of what you don't. You do that by doing less and becoming more. I love you tons. I appreciate you. You're all amazing. Can't wait to see y'all tomorrow. I'm Sean Murphy along with an amazing group of misfits. I'll see y'all where? At the next event. Y'all have an amazing day. Y'all send some love to each other.
Love you guys. Love you guys.
Happy Saturday.
Heather, thank you.
Bye, everyone.
I love you guys. Have a great day.
Right.
Have a beautiful day.
Bye, everybody.
Everyone stay blessed.
Yes.